Okay, good morning. It's about 8 o'clock, so we'll get started this morning. I don't have
Good morning.
many remarks this morning, so I'm going to turn it over to Dina for our first presentation.
All right, teammates.
We're coming.
All right, team, we're ready this morning? All right. I know I got a little hyper. Hopefully I'll calm down through the presentation, but it's good energy. It's Friday. We're good. All right, so Park and Rec is up this morning. We're going to give you a presentation about kind of the lay of the land, what projects coming up, what we've been doing, how that affects this coming up budget, and then looking for direction on what y'all like us to pursue. This all feeds back to the CIP. That bleeds into that advocacy list, that bleeds into the staff request. Okay, and then I've got my teammates up here ready to go with me. They're going to jump in, and we're going to tag team this throughout the presentation. But again, call us out and say, we need more information about XYZ, and then we can be able to get that back to you, because it's fairly high level. So we can definitely kind of get the lay of the land for the budget. Okay? Alrighty.
Do you have the clicker?
I've got the clicker. I just, again, way too hyper for this morning. There we go. Vision and mission. So I always like to start off presentations like this because it tells you why we're here. The vision and mission of the town, also the vision and mission of the Park and Rec. This is the reason why we are performing. This is the reason why we're here in the community. This is what the community has asked us to provide for them. Main components: the recreational component, the educational component, the cultural component, the healthy lifestyle component, the quality of life, a safe environment for you to play and be with your family. And it meets all crosses of ages, means, and abilities. You know that we've done a wonderful initiative this year with the Smile Trailer to make sure everybody feels included. That's what Park and Rec does. We make sure that you feel included on what your Waxhaw family is providing. So this is the reason why we're here. Miss Melissa's going to talk to you about the level of service.
So when we talk about levels of service, we're just looking at 3 tiers. So we'll just keep it a short range. So level 3 would be the highest level of expectation, which is what we strive to do on a daily basis. We're often limited based on staff resources to be at that level, but we do it as much as we possibly can. And it kind of breaks down what each level looks like from a visual and from a work standard. So staff is out there cleaning restrooms and facilities 3 times a day, and that means all of the restrooms at the facilities in the recreation that are under recreation, and then also in the parks. People come to our parks because we have clean bathrooms. It's a big deal, right? Also, we have part-time staff on the weekend that helps with that at least twice a day, and then also takes care of the downtown trash. You know, we have cutting-edge amenities at our parks, especially at the new downtown park, and that's how we want to continue to grow and operate. We have free, large community events. It's one of the reasons why people love Waxhaw, is our big events that we provide for free to the community. We also have bigger bands that bring in people from out of town. So we're not only serving the Waxhaw community, we're serving the surrounding area. We have free holiday events. We offer free shuttles, and we had to add an additional shuttle so that way we could bring even more people in to cut down on wait times. These are the things that we are offering at that level 3. having more available hours for rentals at our facilities. That's something that can expand with additional staffing. Also having professional and specialized trained staff and including continuing education each year for our staff. For a level 2, which would be just a step down, that's where sometimes we're at just based on what's going on in our limited staff at certain more so with like outside projects. So, you know, we may have limited offerings of rentals. We may not be able to clean the restrooms 3 times a day. Maybe it's only twice a day. We're gonna maybe be doing less in-house project management and have to contract out more services, which is definitely more costly. We may have to cut down on free amenities. You know, one of our most recent events, our senior Christmas party, that was a level 3. Most of you were there. You got to see that level of service that we're providing for the community. We served 245 residents at that event. Only 11 actually live outside of the town of Waxhaw. So the majority, 234 of those individuals live inside the town. Those are seniors. And for a lot of them, that was maybe their only holiday meal that they got to have. So it was a really special event that we're able to provide at that higher level of service. So at the lower levels, you know, it's just kind of a step down is what we would have to do. But the community, what they want, what they're demanding is level 3 service. So that's what we're striving to provide. And then, you know, if we have to cut it down even further to a level 1, that's, you know, maybe restrooms are only getting cleaned once a day, maybe only once on the weekends, which is usually when the higher traffic is. Downtown trash is getting taken out when it can on the weekends. I know Public Services takes care of it during the week, but talking about the weekends only, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, not able to complete certain projects because the team is getting pulled to do other maintenance or helping out at the events, helping out that team. And then maybe the facilities are closed more than they're open. Maybe we have to shrink the events and offer less to the people. So that's just kind of to give you an idea of how we look at operating the different levels of service for our department.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, so
Ms.
just to
Robin?
add, for customer service, we talked a little bit yesterday about customer service, about like what we do for that. But to add for the level of service, we're actually trying to make sure we strive for great customer service at all of our facilities as well. So the new learning center, that customer service that we talked about, basically that customer service coordinator would be the person that would be greeting the visitors coming in. They would be helping the people at the computer lab. They would be doing those kind of tasks, admin type tasks. They would also support the program coordinator to make sure that if they needed help with setup, they needed help cleanup, that's what that person would be doing at the Learning Center. And then the PSPR building, right now, like I said, me and Hayden are kind of tag teaming the front there to make sure that everybody's greeted. We know what's going on. We try to direct them where they need to go. Our Parks and Rec team also kind of is our backup. We have a very annoying doorbell already installed that is already driving our team crazy, but it helps us know when somebody's walking in to be able to rush to the door to make sure that somebody is there. So that is part of our level of service that we're trying to provide for customer service. And then yesterday, I just kind of mentioned the rentals piece of this puzzle. So I did run some more numbers last night just to kind of get down a little bit more into the detail of it. So I looked at kind of projections from here to the June of this year. And with our revenues that we already have brought in around $29,482.80, and then we add in the other projections, we will probably total in revenues around $47,986.78. So when we're talking about, and that's just projections of what's been booked as of right now. That doesn't mean we won't get a lot more shelter rentals and birthday parties and all that. These are our regulars or people that have already booked. So the biggest thing I'm mentioning that to you about is that when we're asking for that kind of staff, we want to keep providing those rentals as far as a service. And so we want to make sure that we can keep up with those inquiries. We can start promoting those a little bit more, and we're not there to make money. We're there to show that as an offering. The Learning Center is not only going to be for rentals, obviously. We're going to have a lot of educational programs. We're going to make sure that our citizens are taken care of, but it will also provide a very valuable meeting space that a lot of people need right now. So it is giving that kind of opportunity where we can provide this great service, but we also have revenues to show why we could use that support. So that is what the customer service is going to bring.
All right, so looking at the 2040 comp plan, so this is what the people want, right? So they want more recreation facilities. That's what our community has said, and that's what we're trying to provide. So the Rec Barn has been a wonderful addition. We've been able to expand our programming, and this is just a snapshot of what we've seen since it opened in March. You know, we've had over 18,000 visits, and that's just from March to December. And a lot of those are returners because we do have a lot of long-term rentals. And what we consider a long-term rental is any rental that's reoccurring over a month, like more than a month. And so our sports teams that are coming in and renting the batting cages, we have field hockey and lacrosse that are using the back building. So we're getting a lot of different sports groups that are returning every single week, to the point where we're having to turn people away because we don't have enough space at the prime times in order to provide for everybody. But we try to make it as fair as possible. But all of the amenities at the Rec Barn have been really great, and the community still is learning about it. So we expect, like Robin was talking about with rentals, it's going to only increase from here, especially once they know about the community room that can be used for things other than sports. Because, of course, we have the indoor sport opportunities, but then we also have a place for celebrations, meetings. That community room is pretty versatile. Excuse me.
Ready for the next one?
I'm sorry?
Ready for the next one?
Sure. There was just a snapshot about programming there at the bottom, just so you could see that we are providing for all ages. The majority of our programs are for youth, and inclusion and seniors are our big ones. But yeah, go ahead. Thank you. And then just a quick update on events. So like I said earlier, that the events are why people come to Waxhaw. That's what makes our town unique. One of the things that makes it really special. Just the 4 large events that we do brought over 40,000 people to downtown. Some of those residents, some from outside of Waxhaw. And that's just the 2 parades, Autumn Treasures, and Kaleidoscope Fest. That doesn't even include the military ceremonies or some of the other holiday events. We do serve all ages, and we do provide a lot of amenities for free to the community. We've been able to expand to the downtown park, which has been really fun this year, learning new logistics and being able to have new offerings in a different space for these events. But we also, outside of our own events, assist with other department events. So we assist with downtown events. We help with the street closures, provide the barricades. We help with police events for Dare graduation and National Night Out. We're there. And then we also, we're the people that people come to for events. So any pop-up event that the town needs, ribbon cutting, we did a couple of those this past year. Hope to do a couple more next year. The dedication ceremony, we're here for all of that to support everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. All right, master plan. So over this past year, we've been updating the strategic master plan to get us ready for the PARTIF grant, because I have to kind of get it shored up for us to apply for the PARTIF grant. This gives you a snapshot of the active parks, and then also parks that parkland they're going to go into a development, and then are non-active. So when we've got some new things on here, the learning center's on here now, the Brevard Street, the Southern Maintenance Shop is on here. What I need some direction on is like the community corner. I know that's going to be talked about with the downtown master plan. Is that something y'all want to still keep on the park list? Or if I need direction if I need to take it off for that different development? And then also, are y'all good with what we have on here? So if there's something that I need to look into doing a master plan for the future years, I just need direction on that so I can kind of start planning ahead. Questions? Okay. All right, so we got Flash Vote this year, which is it's an online statistically valid survey, which is awesome. And we were able to utilize that for the first time this past fall on questions out about the master plan. That helps me to have statistically valid surveys to update, and that helps out with future grants for Park and Rec. So this is a snapshot of some of the questions. And I do better with the word field than the graph, but I know my statistic people needs the graph, so I'm trying to do a little bit of both. But it tells you just a snapshot of some of the questions that we asked, and then where citizens are coming in at. So with the master plan, all these things that we had on the master plan still bubbled up to be important, which is a good sign that we are still in line with our current master plan, and just confirms that we're on the right track, which is that was very reassuring to me. So that I'm pretty happy about that, and it gives, just to make sure that we're on the right track and we're doing what the citizens are asking us to do, which is awesome. So you'll see the two questions. The first question is just like, it's more where you live kind of thing. And then the second are questions 4 and 5. And you'll see overlapping themes, being outside, walking, trails. We've got like services, having indoor spaces, being more to seniors. Our seniors, we have 2 offerings a month, then some extra fitness type things, but they still want more. And so that's a big thing for us. Our inclusion is really jumping off because there's no other offerings in the area, and that is a huge one for us as well. Any questions so far? Okay.
I have one question. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did the flash vote go out? I know it was in the fall, you said?
It was in October.
Mm-hmm. And how was that promoted, through via email? Because I remember being...
Yeah, so you had to sign up for it, and we did a big promotional push beforehand, kind of like a month leading up to it. And so whoever signed up for it, with citizens within Waxhaw, were able to then, when they got the kind of like a robocall kind of
Okay.
thing, and then they were able to do the actual survey.
Okay.
So this was, yep.
I was just going to add to it. So how it was promoted as well, we had QR codes throughout the town. It was also on A-frames at the parks, at the facilities, where the people are using Parks and Recreation, and
And-
social media,
Okay.
and the
That's what I was
website,
gonna say.
and the
I missed
newsletter.
it,
Sorry.
so- No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
But this flash vote's for all of us. So that was, I think, James, you brought it to us. And then, because it's going to help all of town departments on statistically valid surveys. The art plan is up next, so that's actually going to come out either the following week or the next week, where it will be out for questions about the art plan, for us to get that updated. So it's one of those things that helps us to stay current on what our citizens are asking for, which is totally cool. Good question. Okay.
One of the things, before we back away from
Yep.
that survey result, one of the things that stood out was sidewalks and walking. And I guess the ask would be, what kind of collaboration can we work on between Parks and Rec and engineering to connect our sidewalks? Because we work very hard on the Carolina Thread Trail and the green space trails, but when you see surveys like this just saying sidewalks and walking, I think sidewalks through the neighborhood, getting Parks and Rec and engineering to work together on
They're all
connecting all the
interconnected.
sidewalks.
No, that's an awesome point.
Thank you.
And that's something we're actually already looking at. Okay.
So we're going to touch on facility updates for this coming year and the next few years. So with the Waxhaw Learning Center, that's going to be coming online fiscal year 26, followed by the Southern Maintenance Center, Downtown Park on Brevard Street as well, fiscal year 26. David G. Barnes in the skate park, we're wanting that on the master plan for this upcoming year as well. Enhancements over at Harvey Clay Nesbitt Park, fiscal year 26 and 27. We'll touch on that on a slide just in a few moments. The rec barn, fiscal year 27, 28. We'll touch on that more in depth in a moment as well. Additional town parkland and facilities, opportunity-based. and inventory upcoming projects with the Greenway fiscal year 25 and 26.
So all the projects that we talked about yesterday is just layout. Okay, Learning Center. We're
Okay, so we are using the Learning Center as additional programming space and rental space, like Robin touched on earlier. So essentially, the programs and rentals that are right now at the Duncan McDonald House and the Meeting Place will be moved over to that facility, but we'll also be able to expand on our rentals and our programming and offer different types of programming. We'll really be able to tap into the technology side of programming and increase our teen programming. That's a demographic that we're not currently reaching enough of, and so we really want to increase those programs there. So programs like esports we'll be able to do, kind of tap into things that are more indoor recreation based than outdoor recreation or athletic and sport based. We'll also have a partnership with the Union County Library, so we will have that book drop. Dina touched on that yesterday, so staff will assist with that as needed, assisting seniors with technology help, assisting all ages with technology help. I mean, there's things I'm still learning that my kids bring up. So everybody needs a little help. And we actually have the open bid meeting next Thursday on February 6th, so we're very excited for that. And that's when we'll get a better idea on numbers. So that number that Dina showed you yesterday might have seemed like a lot. So we're gonna have a better idea, more accurate picture next week. So we'll be able to update all of you at that time, because we're really not sure what it will be in total. And we are working with multi-departments. There's a whole team of us here working together on this project.
yes, and the health and wellness with the teaching kitchen,
Yeah.
which is an awesome one that we don't have in this area as well. This is really
We've
good.
already talked with Union County Cooperative Extension and how they can bring some cooking classes and nutrition classes to that facility.
Which is very much needed. Okay. The Brevard Street location, you can see on the slide where the connection from the downtown park is one of our major hubs for our IT to support the park as well. Again, like I was speaking of yesterday, this has always been on the master plan to be a support facility for public services, park and rec, and emergency management. Mayor, I think you were asking yesterday about the parcels. Here's the survey. We have 2 parcels right there. Majority, the second one's kind of closer into that stream area, but that's where you see at the middle slide where we have the PED connection that will come through. That will also give access to that side of the neighborhood that right now has to either they're going through the stream to get through over, or they have to go all the way up to the front. So it's just a better pedestrian access. Any questions about Brevard Street? Okay.
The scope of that remodel, are you trying to make do with what's there, or are you considering just a complete stripping of the land and starting from scratch?
So we have good bones here. The large shelter is awesome. The workshop or the garage, thank you, is we're good. We've already had building inspections out there. We are getting bids on redo, like upgrade of the cement block building portion of it. Structurally, make sure the mold, if there's any, we're doing all those things right now, and then we can come back with a better number on the upfit. We know that it needs a new roof. We know that it has some, we had to work out some water. The sewer did check out, so we're good on that. So we're systematically going through the list to give you the best scenario of either upgrading what we have or tearing it down and put a new building there. So cost efficient wise, I wanted to make sure you have even playing field on what to go off of. So we're finishing that documentation now. So I put a placeholder in, but that is mainly we need to get through all that, and that we would do the same whatever y'all decide on what you want to do with the meeting place, we would go through that same systematic checklist to make sure that we're giving you all the information to make good decisions. But this is an essential area for multiple departments. And then it connects to the park, which is awesome. Okay, David G. Barnes Park and the skate park. So when we did the master plan for the downtown park, we actually included David G. Barnes in the skate park and the community corner to kind of get an overview of what stages to put the park system in our downtown area. So this shows you where the park is in the yellow area, and then it goes up to the David G. Barnes, and then it also shows you the survey of Barnes and the skate park. You'll see a paper road that kind of crisscrosses within the park. We did already get some concepts, but then again, the master plan, it will dive deeper into what the citizens and y'all want it to be. But forethought is we actually have the paper road will line up with the promenade. So that goes straight in. So if you come from 75, you can go straight down into the park. That was by design. So you can have a seamless, and then that would also help with the walkability of our downtown and the economic of our downtown as well, that Miss Ashley is heading up. Any questions about that? Okay.
I'm back. So we're going to touch on Nesbitt Park a little bit right now. In that photo that we have right there, one of our first is to repave the drive. As you can see, I've gone out there with Tony, with James, and we've walked through, and we have numerous alligator cracking throughout the entire drive of that for the park. And it's only going to get worse in regards to that. So we're looking into repaving that entire drive and also resurfacing the parking lot so that we have a better area to park throughout there. I want to touch on repaving the drive. One of the biggest, an important factor, I should say, we utilize, or Kensington School is right there, and they utilize our drive every day, twice a day, up to 4 times a day, picking up, dropping off kids. So we have lines of vehicles through there all the time. So enhancing the drive and restructuring that would be beneficial for the parents of kids at Kensington School as well. Field light transition to LED on all the fields. Currently, they're all halogen. Field
Except for
3,
one.
yeah, Field 3 we just had done last year, and it's the only field that has LED lights, and it's a big game changer in regards to it. We have uplighting on it, so you don't lose the ball in the lights, and WAA loves it, the kids love it, the families love it, so it's a big difference in regards to playing out there on those fields. We talked about yesterday soccer fields 7 and the microfields of having fencing out there. We have that on our listing as well. Dugout replacement. So the dugouts on all 4 fields, so 8 dugouts total, they're in questionable shape in regards to on some of them. So we're in the process of we're going to be removing those, but we want to have a dugout replacement so that kids aren't sitting there in the sun. They have some coverage from the sun. Every now and then we have issues with people driving their golf carts out onto the parking lot, or sorry, not parking lot, through the sidewalks and onto the field. So we're looking into installing bollards so that people can't bring their vehicles into that area. Baseball field 1, raising the backstop for foul balls so that we don't have any safety issue, so no foul balls are going into the field 6 and possibly causing any type of injury. And also shades in the baseball corridor to minimize foul balls and to provide shading for people sitting there watching the games. Any questions?
On the dugout replacement, is that something you're thinking of doing all of them at once, or do you have sort of a priority list of which ones need to be done first?
I would do them systematically through all at once, though, in the time frame.
So over the course of like one season, basically, you
Yes.
try to get them all done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the two, the ones at the bottom, that relates back to your CIP projects, and that I'll come back with the lighting and the foul ball kind of meshed together next time.
And the lighting upgrade that's listed on the CIP, is that for the remaining fields or just to get another field that we're doing sort of
So
systematically?
Field 2 doesn't have any lights, and that's our smallest field, so we would add, that would be a CIP project to add, but then systematically through the CIP, we can take each field that doesn't have the LEDs and replace, so the poles are fine. It's just the top unit needs to be changed out, but they're not inexpensive. And that's a future goal. Right now, we are replacing the bulbs. That's actually going to happen this coming up month. But it's harder for us to find the actual halogen lights now because they're being discontinued. So it will come to a point where we'll have to do it. Good question. Okay.
So some of the upgrades that we mentioned earlier for the recreation barn, the first two are safety-based. So if you drive by the recreation barn at night after the turf lights are off, it's dark. We don't have enough lighting in the parking lot. So when staff is leaving, after the rentals are gone, the turf lights are off, it's a safety concern for staff to be there walking out of the building in the dark. So we just need to add some parking lot lighting to make it to feel safer for staff as they're leaving and for citizens as they're walking out of the building as well. The sound and intercom system is also a safety need. So the back building and Building A, the one in the front, outside of just a phone, there's no quick way to communicate to either building. So if there was an emergency happening, staff would have to leave Building A and go down to Building B. There's no way to just push a button and yell into the space. So we'd like to install an intercom system so that way we could communicate to both buildings. If staff were in there, they'd be able just to push a button and communicate. It also has some event capability, so we could use it as a sound system. Instructors could sync up to it for their classes. They could play music through it. So it has multiple uses. The community room, the acoustics in there are not great, so we would like to either install a drop ceiling or add some acoustic tiles. That'll help with instructors being heard. For presentations that are held in that room, people will be able to hear them a lot better and get rid of the echo that's in there. Right now, there's no water fountain in Building A, so all of these sport teams that are coming to play, they have to bring their own water and hope that they have enough while they're there, because we don't have a water fountain right now. So we need to add a water line, so that way we can add one in that front building. We also want to add a water line in Building B, so that way we can hook up an ice machine and have that available for the future when we have summer camps there. We'll need that. We need to improve the LED, or add LED lighting. So back in Building B, we have really tall ceilings in there, and it's all fluorescent bulbs. And those go out frequently, and then it is quite a task to get a couple maintenance team people to get in there, have to get a really tall ladder, climb up there, because we also don't have a scissor lift right now. So they have to get a tall ladder, change out the light bulbs. So oftentimes we don't have working lights throughout the entire space. We have enough lighting, but not every single light bulb may be working at a time. And so the LED lighting will assist with that maintenance, also lower energy costs as well. Andrew can speak to the air.
So on improving the tempered air in Building A, that would be to just add some systematic maintenance items to it so that we have better so when it's hot outside, those metal doors aren't just sapping out all the AC and vice versa during the winter time.
Additional outdoor amenities, and this is for the future, right? So outside of the turf field, there is a back rectangle strip that has potential to be something else. So right now it's just an open play space, but it could be a court system. I'm not going to say the P word, but there could be a court that is put out there for people to use and play certain sports. Let's start with the P. So that's a recreation joke. So the recreation barn has been great to meet the community needs, both through programming, but also through rentals and having a backup space. Especially in the wintertime, we've been so busy with rentals because the weather's bad. You know, they need an indoor space to play. And so the demand is just increasing every single day as people find out about it.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our open map for Waxhaw. And we've talked about this before about recreational deserts. So what we're looking at is when we see opportunities for bringing in land or facilities, we need to start looking at our east corridor, north or south, and our 75-ish area, so we can look at what citizens are not getting recreational. So that either they're not even getting a trail right now. There's limited connectivity with sidewalks right now, because we have a lot of lily pads. And just helping that PED plan, the Greenway plan, giving a recreational amenity in those areas. So you'll kind of see we're really top heavy with Nesbitt and Town Creek and then the trails. And then we get into our downtown, and then we have our wonderful new downtown park, and then the Learning Center is going to be right around there, and Barnes is around there. So just to be mindful of when there might be opportunities, we don't know, that would be something we look into. What the priority list from the master plan is the completion of our current parks. So Nesbitt is a priority. Town Creek is a priority. David G. Barnes is a priority. Having amenities at Town Creek is a priority. Having a future other indoor space will be a priority. Citizens are requesting an aquatics facility. So that's a priority for them. So these things are bubbled up from the master plan, and that's when we come to you about CIP projects, laying those out. Now that we have in lieu of with our developments, this is going to help because we can put pocket parks or trails in those developments hopefully with them paying to set it up at our standards, and then we can take it over. So that is something that is a positive for us, and but I just want to make sure that we are keeping up in the front of our minds of these are the things that the citizens have asked us to pursue. But direction from y'all on how we get there. Okay, any questions? Cool. All right. Start us off, Andrew.
All right. So upcoming projects for this upcoming year. The Waxhaw Marvin Road Bridge and pedestrian underpass over by Town Creek. Hopefully that will, I don't know the start date for that, but in regard to that, we will have a pedestrian underpass so that we can connect to Prescott Trail from Town Creek safely without having to cross the road. We would go underneath the bridge area. Two of our grants that we're applying for, the Great Trails Grant and the Carolina Thread Trail Grant, Carolina Thread Trail Grant. Mm-hmm. For the Great Trails, that's the Prescott PED Bridge connection to Prescott Commercial from over in the Prescott Village area. That's a sample picture of what we're hoping it to look like so that we can systematically have people walking over to Wendy's and Arby's area as well in that commercial area. The Mill Bridge to Town Creek Park connection, we've gotten some steps closer to that in regards to having that connection so you can be at Town Creek and connect over to Mill Bridge, through Mill Bridge over to the Suspension Bridge Trail and go over and connect over into South Carolina onto the part of their Carolina Thread Trail. And the Grove Manor adoption, the trail there is 99% done. We're just having to do a final walkthrough of it before we take that over, and that would be an addition to the Carolina Thread Trail as well.
So it connects into Prescott community. It goes from in the middle of Grove Manor, and then it'll connect in the back in 2 locations. So that gives, especially that's a specialized community, mainly with seniors in it, that gets into the trail system. Okay, you good?
All right, so how are we paying for all this, right? So grants, obviously, we just talked about grants enough on these 2 projects. You know about them. We hope to get the money for it. We're hoping that we'll know that soon. So we can skip this one since everybody kind of knows about this. It's more of just a reminder of what we asked for.
Okay.
The next one, though, is our part of grant. So we all have talked about how we're going to be applying for that. You all already approved for that as far as the match is concerned. But we wanted to talk a little bit more in detail so you can see pictures of what we've talked about for the project. So you basically have your sunshades, you have your connectivity like Ms. Dina's already been talking about in the back. And then you also have your amphitheater roof and your shades over the seating for the amphitheater. These are projects that, unfortunately, due to construction costs, we were not able to complete with the downtown park the first time. So we're hoping that we do get this part of grant to be able to complete this part of the project. If we don't, then hopefully we can work on, finding other opportunities there. But we're really hoping that we've been meeting with the Pardiff reps and trying to make sure that we are all getting our ducks in a row. And I'll mention, as far as grants is concerned, this is another reason why having somebody in the finance department for the grants would be so helpful, because we are basically applying for what we can based on capacity. And so we've actually been hearing about other shade opportunity grants and things like that that would be so great for us to start investigating and seeing, but we don't really have the capacity in-house right now to be able to handle taking on more applications. So just kind of throwing that out there that this would help us as well. Dina, do you want to add anything about that project?
No, other than I really want it.
So this is just a quick update. We'll talk more about it this afternoon when we have our PCR rep come and speak about those updates. But just a update on the Friends of Waxhaw Parks and Trails. That's the nonprofit organization that we are starting. And just to update on the timeline, we have approved the MOU and the bylaws by our advisory committee. We are currently still accepting board of director applications. We do have 2 spots for commissioners on that board, so be thinking about that. Our deadline for public applications is February 18th, and we'll start interviews for board members after that point. The ask is the same as the downtown businesses.
DWA.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot of acronyms for next year to start up the nonprofit organization.
Okay, just to give you an update with the WAA, we are in the final communications with the agreement. What the agreement entails is we started monthly meetings, so like next Friday is actually our monthly meeting. It's the first Friday of the month. We talked about the field usage, the roles and responsibility, and the maintenance roles. We've talked about the budget, who pays for what, the annual documents that they need to have to make the agreement whole, storm repair, because unfortunately we are in a floodplain and floodway area, and then third-party rentals, and then scheduling system. So those are the key components that we've been talking about. Significant changes this year. we've taken on more responsibility on upkeeps that weren't in the previous, so that's part of it. So just to give you a heads up on that. With a recap from last year, I did bring to y'all some alternatives. So right now we're in y'all asked us to keep us in the annual maintenance. For future, there is other options, but I just want to make sure you're aware of those options. Any questions? Okay. The reason why we do things, look at all those happy smiles. They are loving the park, loving the events, and this, I know I'm going to get sappy, but this is like the glue, the community glue that brings Waxhaw as a family. And I wanted to leave us on this note because y'all make a difference. And y'all give us the opportunity to make a difference. And I appreciate that. And y'all support helps make that happen. And I just wanted to remind you y'all know why we're doing it. Some pictures never hurt. Questions?
Questions from the board? Anyone? Nope.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Dina.
Thank you.
Lots of info.
Thank you.
Okay, next up's Emily.
Hopefully my voice holds today. It's a little. So what I'm going to introduce here is a potential added benefit. Switching gears here a little bit. So talking about potential retirement benefit option that we could add on, just seeking some guidance, direction on if this is something you want us to pursue. And I'll provide like a high-level overview of this today, and if there's some additional information you request, I'll be happy to add that, get that for you. So currently, we don't have any like town-offered benefits, town-specific offered benefits for our retirees. It's something I would like to look at adding on. People that spend so much dedicated time and service to the town would love to give something to them in retirement. There have been many requests made by staff for retirement insurance. We've been looking at this over the past several years, and we've found that it would be really costly. So I'll kind of break this down for you. So as we started looking into it, there's something called OPEB, which stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. And these are beyond your pension. It's like health insurance, life insurance, dental coverage, that type of thing. Keeping retirees on our medical insurance was an option, so we started digging into it. And we found that there are some very heavy financial implications. Employers offering OPEB have to account for the future cost of these benefits on financial statements. And those can significantly impact us due to the long-term nature of these liabilities. And so it would be very, very costly. A large OPEB liability can negatively impact our credit as it indicates potential financial stress in the future. And so looking at that, we did reach out to, I got on the listserv and reached out to other places that do offer this, and they said they honestly regret doing it because it is so costly. They didn't anticipate the cost, millions of dollars even. So it's something that we were like, okay, this may be too much of a hardship for us to take on. So we started looking into other options. We reached out to our benefit brokers, and they looked at additional options to see what else is out there that we could potentially do. And that's where we landed on something called a retiree HRA. So a retiree health insurance reimbursement arrangement is a tax-free account that helps retired employees pay for eligible medical expenses. The employer funds the account and then decides how much money to allocate to each retiree. And so how does this exactly work? So a retiree HRA, this is something that we could do via Flores. We already have Flores because we use that for our FSA or HSA. So that's something, a vendor we already use. The town would determine the amount of reimbursement per month. But just note here that we would need to provide the same reimbursement amount limit for all retirees in order to not have any taxable impact on the retiree. The employee would find their own coverage. Now, our benefit brokers can offer their assistance on helping staff find coverage. But the retiree would submit the bill to Flores each month for that reimbursement. Skipped ahead a little bit. Eligibility. So we have flexibility on the eligibility requirements as far as who would qualify based on years of service and age. We could kind of mirror the retirement system, and I'll kind of break it down like non-LEO versus LEO. So the non-LEO employees, 60 years of age with accumulation of 20 cumulative vesting credit years with the town. And then, or any age with 30 cumulative vesting credit years with the town. And then our law enforcement, following kind of the retirement system, the 55 years of age, accumulation of 20, or any age and accumulation of 30. This would be pre-65, so once the retiree hits the age and eligible for Medicare, they wouldn't be eligible for this benefit. And then also just a note here that if they attained a position with another organization that offered medical insurance, they would be no longer eligible for this. We can kind of determine as part of the plan design and setup if this allocation would only be used for medical premiums, or but where we can also include out-of-pocket expenses, and that would be things like co-pays, co-insurance. Also, a question of, do we allow COBRA premiums to be reimbursable, and also include dental and vision plan premiums? Those are all options that we can look at, and we can kind of play with that a little bit, but just wanted to provide some of those options that we can look at as far as eligibility goes. So the cost. The last proposal we received from Flores, it was a $0 implementation fee. It's $3.50 per participant per month. That's what that PPPM stands for, administrative fee. And there's a $50 monthly minimum. This is the lowest Flores can go in order to set up a plan and maintain it. The amount per month that the retiree receives is up to us, but again, it's got to be the same across the board for every employee. We're proposing $800 if we do move forward with something like this. This is about the cost per month of a premium that we cover for employee-only medical coverage right now. So it would kind of be, they would kind of continue what they're already receiving. And then in looking at, we did kind of forecast this out over the next several years, and there would only be like a handful of people that would be eligible for this. So overall, over the next 10 years, I think we looked at it, and it's only like 5 people. So it would be minimum cost over the next 10 years. The reason this matters. So again, providing something to our retirees that have spent so much time with the town and dedicated service. We don't currently have that, and that it would be really nice to offer something. It's also a recruiting and retention tool. I'm not saying this is the only thing that would bring someone here or have them go somewhere else, but it's something added on to our already great benefits package that we could offer. And it keeps us competitive with other municipalities and their benefit packages. We want to kind of remain competitive with what other people are doing. And I have Union County up here as a note. I know we talked about this yesterday. This was brought up when Chief was talking. They are offering retiree medical coverage insurance. So it's something that, especially for on the law enforcement side, this is huge because we can potentially lose people for this. And we want to keep our wonderful, wonderful employees that we have. So I'm going to let him come up and talk a little bit about, especially for law enforcement officers, why this matters.
So you should have 2 pages in front of you. One is the Union County retirement insurance policy, and the other is what it cost us to train an officer for the first 10 years of their law enforcement career. Thank you. So the new officer mandated training through 10 years, you can see the bottom line number. The total loss would be $125,283. That's what it cost us for the training for each individual officer through that 10 years. So Union County was smart by bringing back the retirement insurance. I remember when I was there, it was 10 years you had to be vested for 10 years in order to get that retirement insurance. Now they've placed it at 20 years. I think they did that for a reason. A, they're going to retain their people a lot longer. If it's 20 years, they got to be there. But if I could steal somebody from another agency with up to 10 years of training already under their belt, I come out ahead $120,000. So it's pretty smart. I know they're doing a lot of recruiting right now, especially Facebook. If you've seen their ads all over Facebook, it's everywhere. We have reinstated retirement insurance. We offer these benefits. Starting pay for laterals is this. If I could get a lateral that saves me almost a year, it's right at 11 months it takes to get somebody through BLET, field training officer, and then on to patrol for solo patrol, 11 months. If I could bring in a lateral from another agency, well, that goes from 11 months to about anywhere from 2 to 3 months, depending on how long their field training lasts. So it's a huge recruiting tool for us to be able to say, hey, if you have up to 10 years, we're gonna pay you such percentages for each year of service you got with this other department. But we also have retirement insurance that you have to do 20 years with us, and then you'll get that benefit until you turn 65. So it's just major for us. I remember back 18 years ago, I've been here 18, almost 19 years, and I remember we were the stepping stone for law enforcement. I know a lot of you guys who've been here for a while, I know Todd remembers. We would get people in, they'd stay 2 to 3 years, and then they'd go to another law enforcement agency. So we were paying all this money to put them through BLET, get them trained, get all the preliminary training done, just to ship them off somewhere else. I think we've come a long way from where we were then to where we are now, but I'd like to continue to build on that and keep people here forever. Any questions?
Questions? Okay, so that's, again, just a high-level overview, but just trying to get some feedback, direction that we want to go with this. Is this something we want to pursue? If there's additional information that you would like us to pull, we can absolutely do that, as far as like crunching the numbers, or if you want us to go back out and look at more options. But this is kind of where we landed when we started exploring everything, and think we recommend that it really is a good option, good strong option. So any questions or feedback?
Questions from the board?
Not necessarily a question, I guess maybe a comment that as far as in the police field, in my opinion, losing someone with experience also adds an added liability of depending on, new, fresh out of BLET officers that don't have that experience, and there's other ramifications to that. And as far as all other staff, it's always better to retain people with experience that have been through, either crises or managing staff, and it's always better to retain people than to have to continually retrain. It's a waste of time, and high turnover is never good for any agency or corporation. So I think it's something to think about.
Absolutely, want to keep all these wonderful staff members here. So it's definitely something that could be a great added benefit. Absolutely. So any other feedback, questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Looks good.
Thank you.
These benefits are not location-based at all, right? Like people can move from locations.
Oh, yes, it's not location-based.
Yeah, right.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, we're about 30 minutes ahead of schedule, and I think the next schedule is a break, so you're going to take about 15 minutes.
Everybody good with the 15-minute? Sounds like we'll do a 15. Thank you. We will come back at 9:15. Thank you, everybody.
Slightly ahead of schedule, so we'll get moving on the next portion. These are all policy updates, ordinance updates. PD will actually be handling the first one, the animal welfare ordinance review. The dig once policy I'll cover, and the next three are board member driven, so I think Mr. Daunt wants to bring those up for conversation. So at this point in time, Chief, we'll let you.
Hello again. So I was asked by Tracy Westlick and Richard Daunt to look at our animal control ordinance and see if there's any updates we can make to that. I know there's a lot of state laws, there's a lot of stuff that we go by, but the ordinances kind of tighten everything down a little more. And Monroe made some changes to theirs, and I've kind of put some of that in here. So calls for service, animal bite calls, we had 23 bite calls last year. Bite call follow-ups, 23. Animal complaint calls, 335, which is quite a lot of animal calls. Imagine a lot of nuisance. Disturbance nuisance calls, 421. Since COVID, more and more people are working from home. So during the daytime hours when they're trying to get on their Zoom meetings or their Microsoft meetings, they get mad because the dog next door is barking. They end up calling us to figure out what's going on. So the animal barking dog calls have increased tremendously since COVID. Current ordinance shows a dog must be given access to water, area kept free from large amounts of feces, only 5 dogs per acre that can be maintained on the property, must be on a leash when off the property, kennel must be 50 foot from any adjoining inhabited structures, and chaining or tethering no more than 2 hours a 24-hour period. Excessive barking is prohibited. What is excessive barking? I can't tell you. So I propose the following changes. Tethering to be changed from 2 hours in a 24-hour period to 2 hours continuously tethered, or do we go with they must be supervised while tethered? The only reason why I say that is how does Officer Scarfone know whether the dog's been tethered for an hour or 5 hours? When he goes to the scene, he has to go off of whatever call that he's taking, go off what they're saying. So if we make it to where they have to supervise their dog while they're being tethered, well, then it's cut and dry. When he arrives on scene, if there's nobody out there supervising the tethered dog, well, now he knows he's got a violation. So I'd really like to get your thoughts on that. Unless temperatures rise above 95 degrees or below 25 degrees, then it would be 1 hour continuously tethered due to those temperatures. A tether shall be equipped with a swivel on both ends. When tethered, the area must be free from obstructions to prevent entanglement or injuries. Usage of a pinch or choke collar prohibited while tethered. Excessive barking changed to barking continuously for 1 hour. And must have shelter available for a dog, doghouse, lean-to, covered porch, etc. We currently don't have anything in the ordinance to say they have to have shelter at all. So I think that's a pretty big deal for me. And any questions? And I'd really like your feedback on these changes or any other changes you'd like to see.
So I had emailed the chief some ideas from some other locations, other states really. And so I don't know if some of these are, you had mentioned to me privately that there were a lot of state laws.
Right.
So, obviously we don't need to overlap those, but but I would like to tighten up a little bit on the shelter and then also on the temperature. I definitely shade for over certain degrees. I think I'll have to look in my notes here on what that was. And then if it's under, like, one of the ones mentioned, like, whenever there's like a weather warning, when it'll say a frost or something like that. Like if it's under a certain weather warning, or you could choose a temperature, and then to make sure that they've got shelter, at least 3 walls of shelter to protect for the temperatures below freezing.
And that would be for a dog that's not tethered.
Yeah, that's
what
the
you're
thing.
saying?
That's the thing. I mean, a lot of what you put in here was for tethering,
Right.
whereas I'm talking just in general, it could be a fenced-in yard, whatever. They need to still have some type of shelter
Right.
for heat and for cold. So that would be my opinion on that. And then you said the water, access to water.
Correct.
At all time, yeah. Those were my main things.
Yeah, I think everything you suggested makes sense. I was just fumbling around looking for the slides, but in a previous slide, didn't it say something about the doghouse has to be within 50 feet or something? And then you said, though, that there's no requirement in the ordinance for a shelter right now?
Well, no, that's a dog kennel. So a dog kennel is different. So a dog kennel would be like a concrete pad with a fence.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't have to have
Yeah,
walls
so
or a
you
roof
don't
or
have to have a
anything.
doghouse. You don't have to have any shelter at all.
Okay.
Underneath the current ordinance. So yeah, a kennel is different from shelter.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes sense to require that. I mean, it does get extreme, especially in the summer here. So.
And I can add in about shelter for any dog that is confined within a residential area.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that when you get calls, there are complaints a lot of times about dogs being out when the weather, the frost, freezing rain,
Yes,
snow, all that, so.
We currently don't have anything in our animal ordinance that pertains to weather, whether it being hot or cold. The state, as far as anything that pertains to hot or cold or heat, there is a statute that pertains to leaving an animal in a vehicle.
Yeah.
So other than that, depending upon whether the dog is what they call being left outside of having the shelter, and it always refers back to what the ambient temperature is surrounding the animal. So I did some research yesterday, and certain municipalities in the state, like when it pertains to a doghouse, I mean, they really get specific. Like the doghouse has to be insulated. It has to have certain type of roof shingle that will reflect the heat away. So, I mean, that's something that, I mean, maybe we could think out, because just, within the past 3 weeks, I mean, it just got warm just recently. I mean, but I spent a whole day, because there are certain individuals in town that I deal with on a regular basis and that I check in with, and they don't have the ability to pay for certain stuff. I drop food off to them, and Chief saw me like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I knew that the cold was about to get here. I mean, I did nothing but drop off bales of straw to folks all day long.
Yeah.
So, because some folks, I mean, we don't even have anything in the ordinance that says that a dog cannot be kept outside. So that's something that I think needs to be looked at as far as the shelter and having to do with the weather, whether a dog is tethered or, like you said, left out in a fenced-in yard.
Right. Did you, and then one of the other ones that I had, which may be a state law, abandoned animals, do we have a state law for that one?
For abandoned animals?
The one about, if a tenant vacates a property and leaves an animal on the property, do we have any protection for that?
I do not.
That would be, I mean, if someone is, say, renting a property, I've had that once before, renting a property and the person just took their stuff and left the dogs behind and abandoned them. I mean,
Right.
that falls under, I will just go there, take the animals, and surrender them as strays to the Union County Sheriff's Office.
I guess what my concern is, so how do you know that they were abandoned? Somebody has to call you and say these people abandoned them? Was it like
That's correct.
so the landlord or neighbor or something? Okay. But there's no, we can't find them or anything like
I mean,
that?
I'll attempt to make contact with them. I mean, you know, a lot of times these folks that are moving out and abandoning these properties and leaving their dogs behind are folks that haven't paid rent or have been evicted, and the last thing they want to do is leave forwarding information as to how and
That's
where they
true.
can be contacted, so.
That's true. Yeah, so the only thing for the, I don't know if we'd want to do a temperature thing, like 32 degrees and 95 degrees thing, or if we want to do like where, like I said, they used weather warning type of things, like whenever there's a weather warning, a snow or.
I would rather do temperatures myself, so it's cut and dry.
Okay.
I would rather it not be vague, so then there's no question of whether in the right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I'll do whatever you guys want.
Okay.
No, I think to leave the vagueness out is the best way to go, so that there's no arguing and there's no appealing it. You know, it's 25, the ordinance is 32, you're in violation, that's it. It's the only really way to protect these animals, because they can't speak for themselves, so we have
Right.
to be able to just go out there and take care of it. And I think the shelter is important too. I don't know that we need to be too specific, because it might be a burden financially on people, but there has to be something in place where they're not outside, in freezing temperatures, even if the sun's out. It could be 32 and it's sunny. Doesn't mean,
Right.
they have to have some type of shelter, I think.
We can add in there for shelter-wise, we could add in 4 walls and a door or something along those lines to make it to where they understand it has to be.
Yeah, like I'm just reading some of the ones that I saw. Like it says it can't be, underneath a vehicle. It can't be made out of cardboard. It seems like
So
you have
instead of putting what it can't be, should we put what it has to be?
Yeah, we could. I mean,
So
if you think
then-
that's easier.
So then, like I say, it's cut and dry. It's got to be made out of this. It's got to be this, this, and this. And
Yeah.
so it's clear and concise, and they'll know what to do.
It's a tough balance because you don't want to over-regulate, but,
Right.
I mean, you don't have to provide them a little mini mansion,
Right.
So yesterday I researched and I don't know if you're referring to the ordinance for inclement weather for the city of Monroe.
Okay.
But there says, failed to provide adequate shelter for an animal he or she owns, possesses, or harbors, or encloses in such a manner that the animal can be protected from extremes of the weather. And then it says heat, cold, rain, and the like, which probably means snow or frost, and allowed to remain dry and comfortable during the inclement weather. So they have something in place.
That sounds good.
It doesn't specify ambient temperature, but then it does go on to say that the shelter cannot include metal or plastic barrels, cardboard boxes, carriers, crates, and yeah, my dog is fine. He just, when it rains, he goes under the vehicle that's in the driveway.
Right.
So that's just, and then just has to have adequate food and water.
Hey, that sounds good to me.
So.
And I don't like the food part.
Right.
Because like I
Well-
say, a lot of times a dog is going to eat for 20 seconds, 2 minutes max, and then there's no food.
Yeah.
So how do you prove whether that dog's
Well,
been?
I don't think we need to say have food out, but I think it's obvious if they're not feeding their dog, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely,
That
yes.
and you could probably enforce maybe under neglect or something like that, or.
Yes.
And one question about, how about people that are not doing that now, and now we're putting an ordinance in, how do you inform them before they get violated? Is there is there a warning, a first warning type of thing, so that?
I think there's a lot of warnings, but
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, listen, animal control falls under the community portion of the police department, so, I mean, I like to go out there and like educate these folks and
He has a
just-
big heart.
And just not to be like, everybody has this picture of like the dog catcher that comes down the street and just is taking your animals away or whatever. But I like to say that I try to work with folks, and if they need assistance and I can give them any, that's what I do.
Anything else?
Sounds good. So then you're just going to write up the
Yes,
ordinance and bring it to a board meeting?
I'm going to rewrite the ordinance, and then I'll send it out to Richard, who can then send it out to all you guys. We'll get some comments on that, and then I'll bring it before board meeting to change it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one's dig once policy. If you haven't received any calls, at some point in the future, you probably will. But over the past several years, Congress has, I'd say, passed out billions of dollars for fiber. And we are starting to see where a fiber company may come into an existing neighborhood and install fiber. Shortly thereafter, the second one comes in. After that one, the third one comes in. And usually what you see, they're cutting phone lines, they're cutting water lines, they're cutting gas lines and everything. All other some other restrictions are currently handled by the FCC. In an existing neighborhood, you can actually require that they get a permit from the town to install fiber in your right-of-way. You can't stop them, you can't restrict them, you can't impede them, but you can ask that they actually notify you, get a permit from the town. You can charge a reasonable fee for that permit. But if they don't come in or if they don't comply, there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. The actual one dig policy is, as a new subdivision is being built, you can require that they install a pipe, and all of the other companies would install in that same pipe. So you only dig once, and all of the cable companies will actually use that same pipe. The question comes in, who pays for that pipe when it's installed? As your development policy, you make it ask that the person building the subdivision, cover that cost. You can't make them cover the cost, but I think as you negotiate with them on streets and sidewalks and water and sewer and all that stuff, I think you could easily put that in there. If they absolutely refuse, there is the option where the town could actually cover that cost, and it's it's for convenience of your citizens in the future. Like I said, you can't control what's happening in the old subdivisions. You do have to listen to the complaints when people's lines get cut and their yard stays, dug up for months or, years at a time, because you got all these different companies coming through. But you do have, some authority as these new subdivisions are being built. You got a lot of new subdivisions coming in. So our question, I guess, is an ordinance something you want us to pursue and to bring back to you at a later date? Like I said, you can help citizens that aren't here yet, but you can't do much for your citizens, that are here now.
I think that's a good idea, because I have received quite a few complaints from neighbors too, because fiber came in, and I told them there's really nothing, we can't stop them from coming. We're kind of hamstrung with that. Is there anything that we could put out perhaps to inform the public that we can't, and how they can advocate for themselves, because other than saying, sorry, I can't help you, they're not happy with that. So, and these companies are not responsive at all. They don't come, they don't show up when they say they're going to. Internet is cut off for
I guess y'all deal with them mostly,
days.
don't you? Time of Ryan, we don't get a lot of response out of them, so.
Linda does most of the communication with I guess the conduit installers or the fiber installers, but yeah, there's no federal ability for us to deny them. They do submit their applications, and we basically confirm that where their routes is in our easement, and then we approve it. I agree with Richard's idea, and I think it could be simply, I guess we can check with Cindy, but just requiring them, I can put that on the engineering manual and in all our profiles that they put a 2-inch conduit with 3 lines in it, so we got at least 3 future fiber companies could come in and they just pull their line through the existing conduits that we required developers to install. And I don't see a problem with requiring all the new developers to do that, and I think we can simply just add that to the engineering manual. I don't even know if you guys have to approve that, but as long as we all agree to it, I guess we check with Cindy if that needs to be approved, but I think it's as simple as adding it to the profiles.
And is there anything we can do as a town to require them to fix what they messed up as far as the yards? I mean, they dig like they're digging for a funeral. They just throw grass everywhere. It's in the street. It's on the sidewalks. They don't clean up. I mean, it really is a mess. I don't know that we can. I'm just saying they need, you can't require somebody to be respectful of other people's property, but can we make it difficult for them if they don't?
I don't know necessarily answer. Basically, they can't do that. I mean, that's a civil lawsuit that they have if they tear up somebody's property, and then it becomes an argument with them. And also for them, it's not beneficial. If I'm going to Google Fiber, for example, wants to come in and install, and they're tearing up every yard, well, that doesn't look good for them. And it's like, well, I'm not going to buy your service. You just tore up my yard. So.
Yeah, adding on to that, one thing that we could do, and it is common practice to do from other agencies as well, is when these plans first come in to us for review and we issue an encroachment agreement, as a part of that encroachment agreement, we have special provisions that are standard, basically standard set that they must meet. So we are in the process of beefing up those special provisions. I know DOT has quite a long list. They have a 10-page document of special provisions, so we can look more into that to better beef up those requirements as well.
And then from a planning perspective, as we get into conditional rezonings, make that one of our conditions.
When they, just for my own edification, sorry, when they put in the fiber, they're not actually running a cable. They're using a ditch witch and they're running a line. They're not trenching. Are they installing a tube that the wire then goes through? Mm-hmm. Is there something then that we can do that says, once a tube is installed, you're not installing another one. You want to run a wire through that tube, go talk to the guy who put in the tube. Is there something like that we can do so that people aren't getting tore up twice?
So what happens when they put all the fiber that goes in is the underground bore, and they just pop up wherever, and that's when they start digging. This last fiber company that just come through where all the complaints came from, they got way ahead of the locators. You get a 3-day locate. Nobody contacts you within 3 days, you can start digging. I think we need to hold them to wait till the county comes and locates, the gas people locate, because they were hitting water lines, gas lines. They hit one in Anklin Forest, a gas line. And they're just getting out ahead of the locate. So somehow we need to make sure that they can't bore till they get a locate, because there's so much stuff in this ground now, nobody knows what's under it.
But that same company, even when they came through and the system or whatever they put in wasn't operating properly, and then they had to come back in and adjust things, they started digging all over again.
Right.
So they had dug once, they hit the gas line, then they come back and you look and you're like, why are they out here again? And they were digging again. Yeah. So they were digging all over people's property, sometimes 2 and 3 times.
And sometimes they go shallow because there's so much up under them, and they hit rocks, and it kicks it up, and it goes through the concrete or the asphalt, buckles it up. And they just we need to have some kind of ordinance to hold them accountable. If you don't fix it, you stop digging.
Are there existing ordinances that we could possibly hold them to a little more tightly than we are? But I guess that would involve more inspections and.
I mean, we out all the time seeing them dig. One company hung tags on doors and stuff, but it only lasted like for a couple of days, and then they quit doing it. And we only see them dig when we probably gets a complaint or the road's messed up or something. So,
and a lot of it goes back to, fiber utility rights and that sort of thing. So as a part of their encroachment agreement, when they sign that document and adding on different, maybe more improved special provisions, they are authorizing that consent. So that's something to consider, is if we further beef up our special provisions and then they sign the encroachment agreement, then they're basically signing that right and saying we will meet these special provisions. So it all comes down to a consent right, especially when dealing with utility rights.
In terms of reaching the community and educating them on what they can or cannot do in response to a fiber company digging in their yard, we can do certain things as a town to help educate the community. The easiest, lowest hanging fruit is communicating through social media on Waxhaw happenings. If this is something you all are hearing about regularly, the other kind of I would say easy to pull levers are things like the manager's town hall forum, having conversations in those public forums. We could also build educational materials that you all can bring into the community and share with residents who bring you concerns, whether that's at the grocery store or just out and about. And then if we wanted to go maybe a more more cost-intensive route, we could look at a direct mail or a utility bill insert type of communication that would be reaching every single resident, not just someone who's looking for that information. So there are lots of different communications options for that community education piece. It's just a matter of obviously the amount of time and resources you want to go into that, and how easy you want that information to be found. So.
Oh, maybe something like a social media or the happenings, and perhaps we could disseminate that to the HOAs, and then the HOAs have a mailing list and they can mail it out. That's probably the most cost-effective way. Absolutely. And then at least we can share it on our social media, and then we can have something to go back to answer an email or something like that, because the HOAs they're getting complaints too, so I'm sure that they would like an out, and if we could do that, that'd probably be the fastest
one of the
way to do it.
Probably one of the most effective or kind of greatest cost benefit for that would be to build a handout or an infographic that we could push out on our channels and then give to the HOAs to disseminate on behalf of the town. So something like a one page about what are your rights, where you can find information, et cetera, about fiber installations and issues. So, and that could be something you all could print out and keep on your person while you're out in the community, and we give to our partner organizations. So, and we can get started on that. So.
One of the big pushes from the FCC is choice. I mean, they want you to have several choices, not just one in your front yard, and that's why you're seeing all these. I mean, they're also getting, their funds are, are coming from them, so they're not having to cover the cost. The government's covering the cost to, get you those choices. I mean, our fees, I'm not sure we are charging enough to cover the staff time it takes to review the documents and to do all that stuff. So I'm not sure what our current fees are. Do you remember, Ryan? It's not much.
No, I don't know what the current fees are. I was trying to reach to Linda to get the answers on that. But yeah, she
may not even have fees.
It's a certain amount per linear foot, and they do pay us a fee to do the installation for Chris to review that they are within our easements. And yeah, with the FCC, there's not a lot of control. I think James has got some good ideas there with using what DOT has done and get them, if they sign an agreement and they're contracted to do it correctly, then maybe we do have some bite and we have some force. But as it is, I think it's just between them and the homeowners as a civil, hey, you tore up my yard, I'm going to sue you if you don't fix it. And I don't think that's the best way to do it. If we can get some bite on it and find them, that'd be very beneficial.
Do we have a sense of how much the town has been covered so far with fiber and how much more of the town has this to look forward to, I guess?
We currently have Mastech and then what was formerly known as Ripple trying to go through the town. So we'll have two more fibers coming through town right now, so they could come in and tear up one person's yard and then 2 weeks later tear up that same lawn.
So the point is there's still
all these questions, right?
It sounds like there's still an opportunity then to maybe enact some stricter policies, some higher costing permitting fees or whatever that will give us the funds needed so we can follow up on these guys and hold them accountable.
Andrew and I was there. There were several subdivisions that had 5 different cable companies going through. So, I mean, it can get pretty bad at times.
And in 10 years, we're all going wireless, so.
Do you know what I mean? Morning. So as far as the fees go, it's $500. I don't know the technology behind it all, but that's like if they're building a hub, like a box. I don't know exactly what it means, but that's the $500, and then it's 10 cents per linear foot up to a certain.
For minor encroachments, up to 5 cents
Right,
for up to 1,000 feet,
yeah.
and then 10 cents after the first 1,000 feet.
Yep. And I wanted to.
That's the 500 for the site plan review.
Okay.
For a digital fiber network.
Yep.
So the initial cost is the 500, and then after that, we're just adding on per linear foot. So these are substantial linear feet that they're putting in.
The one they're doing right now is very small. It's just 2 neighborhoods, but when Ripple did it, it was like $46,000 for their encroachment fees. So I just wanted to add, to my knowledge, any damage that was done by Ripple was repaired. And Matthew Kramer, who's a great guy with their team, whenever there was something, I sent it to him. He went right out, got it taken care of. So the provisions they were talking about that we're adding, it's holding them to task for Bermuda has to be replaced with Bermuda. They can't throw hay down, they can't throw seed down and infect the current grass and such. One of the biggest problems is the HOAs, because they tried to reach out to all of them and they were unresponsive. There were only a couple that let them come in and talk to the homeowners. So I will say the new company that's coming in, Mastech, for these 2 neighborhoods, they are really on top of things, and James had it done in his neighborhood, and it was wonderful. So I'm not concerned with them. I am concerned with Ripple coming back through. I would love to have them do it together, but we can't force them to do that. So, but we did add a bunch of new provisions, and if they have to do the cuts, my public services guys, they have to reach out to Todd or Matt before they can even, those are the cuts in the road, right? Yeah. So they can't do any of that without them on site. So we're trying, but.
So it sounds mostly, it might just be a comms issue in terms of getting people aware of what their rights are and more familiar, who to call, when to call,
right, and
when they
had all that up for Ripple.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of people, they don't want to go online. They had a good system. You go online, you give them your address, contact information, what the issue is, and then it feeds in, and that worked out pretty well. And comms did a great job getting that out there for Ripple, and Jenny's already in line, you guys too, with getting these. But we're not saying anything yet because we haven't had our pre-con, so. But it's coming.
I know just from quick experience for Curitan, when they were in Curitan, I think it was Ripple Fiber, wanted to put up a banner sign at the entrance and exit of the neighborhood to alert them to any communication and the HOA wasn't going to allow them to put up a banner sign. So they were trying to make communication efforts and make it easy, and then that's part of the disconnect with the HOA sometimes.
So I did speak with the gas company, and they had commented that there has been a significant increase in service calls for striking gas lines in the region, actually, from the fiber companies in our area. What that has pointed out is that there might be improper or poor marking going on, and so the council for municipalities is to establish a maybe a closer relationship with the North Carolina Utilities Commission, because there are opportunities for us to levy fines and penalties for repeated offenses where they're striking gas lines and such in our area.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about a while ago. They're getting ahead of they moving forward without the locates being there. Locates are not even there. They come in, they might have been gone a week because they get behind because there's so much. So that's when they start hitting lines. So that's something we got to figure out how to hold them responsible.
Yeah,
that's the 811 thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the advice from the gas company was, just establish a good relationship with the North Carolina Utilities Commission. They do have a pipeline safety division where, for the town of Waxhaw at least, there are opportunities for fines and penalties.
Yeah, the county told me that I think it was Ripple got 2 weeks ahead of them on their locates. Because 3 days and you can start digging if you don't hear anything. So, and if you call an emergency, it's 48 hours. And then when they do hit something, they just start digging anyway and hit other stuff. So it's just a mess. I mean, you're underground, you don't know what's under there. So.
Tom, any more questions? Tom, we'll work on this, and if there's changes that need to be made to our policies and our fees and rates, we'll bring that back to you in the very near future. We just want to make you aware of the situation, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. So, okay, all right. The next three items, Mr. Dalton wanted time on the agenda, so I'm going to let him discuss those.
Yeah, so the next one is limit on annual budget increases. And this is not to lock ourselves in. It's more sort of a aspirational number that we could look at that would help us think about the big picture of the budget, because there are certain things that are unavoidable that drive budget increases, such as inflation, increase in population. Those things naturally drive a budget to be bigger. But I think we should strive for proportionality in the growth of our budget, that our budget should grow in proportion to the population growth, the inflation, things like that. And, maybe even we could add a little extra on top of that if it doesn't drive future tax increases. Because, as I've watched these presentations, I think we have just a lot of wonderful, creative people on staff here, and you guys have presented awesome ideas, and I'd love to say yes to everything, but there's also like a cash register going off in my head, and it does weigh heavily on me, my responsibility to the taxpayers. And so if we could perhaps every year just come up with a overall percentage number of how much of the budget is unavoidable growth, and how much of it is, it's sort of a wants versus needs assessment. And we've made some steps to that last year when the budget, the big picture budget increase was added to the budget. And so, you know, when we get these presentations also, it would be wonderful to have a sense of how they will affect the budget as a whole. And actually, Chief Wilson's presentation made it the easiest for me to say yes to his asks, because he, you know, I think he's an example of really presenting relevant data that can give me a sense of how it will affect things. And so just wanted to get the board's thoughts on that.
I think a big thing, to your point, is having presentations that I think at least enlighten a little bit on the impact to the budget for the various asks and the various wants. Because I think that it's one thing to look at a project that's, say, $1 million or $500,000 or whatever it may be. Another thing to say, okay, we're looking for 2 head count, we're looking for 4 head count. But it's a lot easier to make decisions if there's some information about how much of an impact that's going to be. I think another way of looking at it, I think during some of the budget things, I know Jeff Wells at the end of his presentations would always have that little number of what 1 cent of tax increase was. And I think 1 cent of tax increase was something like $300,000 or something like that. So it might be interesting to have some of these projects, some of these wants put in those terms of how much of a hit this is from a tax perspective for the taxpayer, or how much of a hit it is to the budget. And I think a part of that is, or can be used to sort of reflect that increase, that target increase you're looking for. So to say, okay, we've got this much growth in the economics of Waxhaw, we've had this much growth in the population of Waxhaw, so our budget increase target should be X number, and that'll keep everything pretty even. And so I think how these projects and how these requests sort of filter into that would be good to understand.
Yeah, and maybe Rosie's new software has a way of automating some of this, right? So that when people, maybe everyone would be able to plug in their numbers and get a sense of how it will impact.
Rosie.
It's exciting.
So we chose not to bring in numbers for budget this year because of the uncertainty with the revaluation. It really is going to be difficult for us to see where we're going to land. So we're, looking for guidance. With the new budgeting software that we're hoping to have for the FY27, FY26 for the budget for FY27, we'll have the capability to update those numbers on a regular basis, which would help us with projections, and everyone can see where they are, where we'll be, and it should make things simpler to view that way.
Yeah, I know the numbers discussion tends to come later, that this is more just looking at what you guys are presenting, and I'm not disparaging anything that anybody's presented. I appreciate all of your presentations, and you've provided numbers. It's just, I'd like, as we do get into the numbers, to have a better sense of big picture impact.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
Rosie, I don't think we asked this yesterday, but does the software offer like a forecasting module? Is there a forecasting component? So as we progress throughout the year, the departments can say, hey, this is what I'm kind of forecasting for the, next quarter, next
I believe it does.
It does, yeah, okay. So maybe that would help answer some of the questions that Commissioner Daunt's suggesting, is that, it allow us to plan and think ahead. How is this going to impact us in the future, and then perhaps even have regular reviews of that as well.
Right. So since everyone will have access to the software on, they can update their numbers, and we can look at special projects, staffing needs, and see where that will work for us. Okay.
And I would just like to add that while, we give out these surveys and there's a lot of wants, I'm not sure sometimes the community correlates that to the impact on how much things cost. I can't even tell you how many times I get a request from family members. They're like, well, can't you just put a light by Food Lion? How much could that cost? I'm like, you have no idea. No, I just can't put a light. I have zero power. So when people are filling out the surveys, they're thinking of this utopia and the downtown park. They have no idea how long it took to make that happen, how many grants were filed, how many we didn't get, and all that goes into it, and everyone's reaping the benefits of it, and it's great because I hear nothing but positive things, but there is a financial impact to the town for that, and we want to make everybody happy, but we also don't want to give them sticker shock. So there is a balance that we need to strike, and Rosie, I think that new program is going to make finance exciting again.
Yeah, and as we get past the reval, I think that's March or April, right? We'll have those numbers, and then we'll be having more budget discussions. It would be really great to have a better sense once we have those numbers, when we go through these different departments asking for different things, if there would be a clearer sense of how does this impact the big picture, and how does it compare to what was asked for last year, things like that.
Great. Any other comments, discussion? Okay. You want to move then to the next item?
Yeah, so the next item is prayer at public meetings. Bobby has provided the list here of a bunch of nearby places where they have it. Congress has it. This is not to promote any particular religion, and this was brought up at the retreat last year, but wanted to give the board an opportunity to consider it again, because I do think it's important to sort of set the mood for a meeting. An example of a prayer that I would give is, Heavenly Father, we, your children, recognize you as the spiritual head of any legitimate government, and we're grateful for your presence as we do the work of the people today. And so that's a prayer that doesn't, establish a connection to any particular religion, but simply recognizes God.
And in this list, how do we define a prayer versus an invocation?
I'm not sure. I thought it was the same thing.
They seem synonymous to me in how I've always used those words, but I'm not certain if there's a legal difference between the two either.
I mean, obviously I'm in favor of this, so I would like to hear from other board members whether they're in favor or not.
I believe the invocation and prayer are used interchangeably. They're non-denominational, and it's supposed to be inclusive. It's been done in many places for many, many years. Congress opens sessions with a prayer. It's been a practice since its inception, and so I think it's a good practice. It's been a longstanding tradition in American public life dating back to the founding fathers, while advocating for religious freedom, recognize the role of faith in shaping the moral character. And I do think that's a great way to start and set positive intentions.
I certainly agree. Any other comments?
I think there are pros and cons. Not that I am against prayer, not that I'm against people praying, but there are different religions, there are different people who pray different ways. There are people who do not believe in having prayer. There are many municipalities who do offer prayer prior to meetings, and then there are theirs who don't. And then even in this municipality, you have the ability to pray and to say that prayer that you have just said, or any other prayer that you choose to say, and that is offered during your moment of silence, that those who are standing can pray to whomever they choose to pray, not to pray, but it is not offering a prayer that maybe someone does not accept, believe in, or think should be done.
Comments are not required.
So it's up to you.
So for me, I'm a Christian. I go to church most Sundays, so certainly is nothing against religion or prayer. But as an elected official who swears to uphold the Constitution, I still have legal concerns about respecting the right to all people. And even though you can say a prayer the way that Commissioner Daunt said, to one God, well, there's people who don't believe in a God at all. So I just have a lot of concerns over the legalities of it. Maybe this is something that Cindy can address, but even just reading over, it's not very clear looking at some of these other court cases, which is the right way to go. And I don't even know, because we do swear to uphold the Constitution. If somebody were to bring about a lawsuit, am I then personally liable myself because I've sworn to uphold the Constitution and I may be in violation of the Constitution? So I have some legal concerns over it. And I also think about if there's someone in the audience who is atheist, we're standing saying a prayer. If that person then, because they don't believe in prayer, they choose to sit, are they going to feel, like they're going to be shunned because they're sitting? So I just don't think that this is the place to bring about any religion.
Well, it's really not about religion per se, and it doesn't violate the Constitution. Congress is doing it, so I would argue that they're not violating the Constitution in Congress. And in the case, for example, I did look up a case. In the case of the town of Greece versus Galloway in 2014, upstate New York, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the legislative prayer at public meetings does not violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment as long as the prayer is not coercive or aimed at promoting a particular religion. This decision affirmed the right of local governments to include prayer as part of the proceedings. So I think there's room for it. We're not forcing anyone to do it. I can't account for people's feelings. So if they want to step out, if we account for everybody's feelings, we'd be here a long time giving therapy sessions. So I'm just saying, if they know that we start with an invocation and they don't want to be here for the invocation and come in 5 minutes later, then that's their will to do so.
I still think that you have the ability to pray or chant or stand on one leg if that's how you pray or whatever during the moment of silence, which is what many people have done or may do or are able to do without outwardly praying out loud to something that may in fact cause a problem for the town with someone who is in the audience who takes offense to something that could possibly be said, not said, or the way that it's said, or who's praying, or how they're praying, or who they're praying to, and they're not praying to who I pray to, or they're not chanting the way that I chant, or they're not spinning the way that I spin. And that moment of silence gives you that same opportunity to say anything at that time that you choose to.
And I guess I'm just kind of confused why there's this feeling that this needs to occur. I mean, does it just to make yourself feel better? Is it to appease a certain group of people in the town? Like, what is the actual reasoning for this? There's nothing that says you cannot say a prayer silently when we're having our moment of silence. Why do we feel the need to outwardly say our prayer for others to hear? I don't even understand that. And I also, I ask, so the county used to rotate religions and have different church pastors, or I don't even know what they're called in other religions, sorry, but come speak, say their prayers. How would you feel if, are you saying could we allow a Muslim leader to come and lead a prayer, a Jewish leader to come lead a prayer? How would you feel if we did that?
Well, that's where the legalities come in. It would only be done by the board, not by anybody in the public, not by a pastor of a specific church. And I think perhaps, and I'd have to check, I don't know why the county changed, but it might be because of that. Because in my research, that's what I found. Did you?
You asked, but it's simply that I've seen it in other meetings, and I think it sets a nice tone, and I wanted to give another opportunity for everyone to think about it. It's as simple as that, really. Bobby has helpfully provided an answer to the question that was asked earlier as to what the difference is between an invocation and a prayer, and it just says that an invocation prayer is an opening prayer for a church service or meeting. So just helpful little answer there.
Do we want to take a board vote on this again? I know we voted on it last year. We brought up the subject again. Do we just want to vote on it again?
Sure. Yeah.
Very well.
I think maybe just right before we take a vote, maybe I'll just add my 2 cents, if you don't mind. I found that since I moved to North Carolina, and I spent most of my career in South Florida and then Washington, D.C., which I would say are not godless places, but it's not as easy to find God in those places. When I moved to North Carolina, it was a lot easier, and it's definitely transformed my life. And I've found myself in the past couple of years, my faith has been evolving rather quickly. And I do understand and share the same sentiment as Miss Brenda and Miss Tracy. But I do find myself in a place where I actually publish articles now, and I publish articles on faith and leadership, which have just recently been syndicated in Europe. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself as I reflect on all this, well, is this something that maybe we should just give it a shot and see what happens? The Lord says, turn it over to Him. He'll work it out. And so I'm certainly. I think I've changed my position on it since last year, but I do also recognize the potential concerns that could be raised. However, maybe the good Lord will watch over us and we won't get in trouble. So that's where my head's at.
I concur.
Well, the other thing is that it's no secret that there's some hard feelings on this board, and I think this can help to alleviate it by just affirming that we're all God's children, and in that sense, we're brothers and sisters on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, Jason, for your comments, because they parallel my experience very, very closely. It's no secret I come from the state of California. Anybody who's been to California, you'll understand just kind of how secular it can be. So being here in an area that was affectionately referred to as the Bible Belt, being here has helped me in a lot of ways as well. So just to echo your concerns and echo your sort of experience, I parallel that as well, which is a big part of maybe doing an opening prayer for me, because I find it refreshing. Because one of the main reasons people don't do them is this fear, this concern about basically being attacked legally by people who don't agree. But I think if we as a board agree, and again, we're not establishing, it's not done coercively, it's not done as a mandate, it's just being done as something as a board we all agree to do, and we're all going to do it together. So I think it's a good addition that we can all enjoy.
But when you're asking for a vote and if two members don't agree, is that us agreeing together to pray together? I don't think it does. And I mean, I am a Christian and I do pray, and I do that on my personal time going to church on Sundays, and yet I'm feeling in some ways being forced to do something that I don't think is appropriate. And so I can only imagine how someone who is not Christian would see this going forward. I have concerns.
Well, I would say you wouldn't have to participate in giving the invocation if that would make you feel better.
Okay, so that's something else we have not outlined, how this would actually happen. So now you're saying that you think that every commissioner is supposed to give a prayer? Is that what you intended on this?
No, I intended whoever wanted to could, and whoever didn't doesn't have to. I don't want to force anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with. So
I don't understand why we are having to even discuss this for a meeting that has nothing to do with religion.
Because this isn't about religion, it's about setting the tone of good intentions.
Can you not do that on your own during a...
Oh, I do it on my own all the time.
Okay, so why do you feel the need to publicly do that? I guess I'm not understanding where this feeling of needing to publicly display this comes from.
I mean, I think I explained already, and if that's not good enough for you, then I'm sorry. I've expressed my opinion, so.
Yeah. So at this point, I think we can discuss maybe the mechanics. So at this point, I think we're discussing the idea of a rotating invocation by a board member. I personally was kind of liking the idea of inviting folks to speak and basically do the opening prayer that way. If that's not something we feel comfortable doing legally, then...
Are you saying inviting outside people to speak, or inviting, who are you inviting?
That's what got the county in trouble.
Who you're invited, so
Okay.
now you're, that extension.
It's called brainstorming, and I'm discussing an idea.
And
I'm getting the
expressing my
feedback on it.
concerns with that idea, so
Yes.
I'm giving you the feedback.
And Jason made it clear that's what got the county
But
in
I
trouble.
was talking.
And Jason made it clear that that's what got the county in trouble. So, thank you. So at this point, we're talking about a rotating invocation through every board member on a voluntary basis, of course, for those that choose to participate and those that
I'm going to
obviously-
request that we wait to vote on this until we have guidance from our attorney.
That might be a fair request, and that, we iron out the mechanics of it with her and just have it really well
To your point earlier, that seems to be the greatest sticking point that would get someone in trouble, is the mechanics of it. I'm sorry, I didn't. Well, I mean, that's the sticking point, is the mechanics in terms of how it would actually happen. So I think you're right. I think discussing it with Cindy would make the most amount of sense to make sure that we're treading properly and not getting ourselves into trouble.
I think that's a reasonable request, and just as long as we don't forget about it, I would like to address this as a board at some point.
Very well. So we'll go ahead and park this item for a while until we've had a chance to discuss it with the town attorney and work out the mechanics of it and proceed accordingly once we've had that discussion. Thank you. Next item.
Yeah, so the next item I brought up about 6 months ago, I think, after I saw a Indian Trail Council meeting. I noticed that after the general public comments at the beginning, there was a section on their agenda that said board response. And it's not that the board is required to respond, but I think it's a nice gesture to the community that we provide a little space there, that if a board member feels like responding, that there's an opportunity. So
I've seen this in other agendas as well. I also know that it's already a part of the existing agenda in that it occurs at the very end of the meeting. But I think we all know that the folks that come for comment generally don't have the endurance for our sometimes 2-hour meetings, so they don't get to hear any closing comments. And there ends up being such a long disconnect between an opening comment and then commissioner closing comments that any commissioner comments based on a public comment seems disjointed and out of place because they occur so far apart. So I thought it was a neat idea as well when you brought this up, Commissioner Daunt, to have these closer together. And to your point, I have also seen it on other agendas. So I think it's reasonable. The goal is not to go into a back and forth, and it would be made clear to the public that it's not intended as a back and forth, and it would occur at the end of all public comments, and not something that would be public makes a comment, commissioner responds, public makes a comment, commissioner responds. It would be public comments, and then, okay, public comments completed, thank you, any commissioner responses. And the scope of the response might be within a specific comment, to simply add clarification, for instance, or to simply provide more information about a particular topic, or to maybe, I think clarification and information is the main reason I would think to do something like that.
Yeah, and it may well be that most times there's no board comments, but I just think it's nice to have that item on the agenda.
I mean, just sitting here for a year, I know that there are public comments that tend to come up that a simple 2 or 3 sentences saying to clarify what is going on, for instance, with a particular topic, because oftentimes public comments may come from a place of not necessarily having all the background and all the information. And sometimes that information will be covered in the meeting, but if the person who made the comment didn't stay for the entire meeting, they wouldn't hear that. So maybe there's an opportunity to just provide that brief response to the public comment at that time, so everybody feels like the conversation is closed and the town is informed.
So I can appreciate the positive aspect of it that you're mentioning. I see the value in answering questions. I think, but I also think about times when we have citizens who stand up there and attack certain board members, and then do we want to open up a back and forth between that board member and that citizen, and then we have this really negative thing happening at the beginning of our board meeting. So that's kind of, I'm thinking about both sides there.
Well, yeah, it's not to encourage a back and forth, for sure. And, you know, Mayor Murray can have the gavel at the ready. So,
yeah, I think the main thing is to make clear that these commissioner comments are in response to public comments that may or may not have been made tonight. and commissioners make their comments, and then we just move on to the next item. So I think Richard said it best. It's the head of the meeting that is going to have to drive the meeting forward and make sure it doesn't spiral out of control. But no, it's not meant or intended to be a back and forth. And I think as board members, we'll have to take the high ground more often than not and ensure that that doesn't happen.
The intent of the meeting has been, and you make a statement at the beginning of the meeting to ask for the comments to be civil, directed to the board, not an individual person. And however, the comments that do come up at times are not done in that manner. And a lot of the comments and statements that are made by individuals who are not being civil and directing it to the board at that manner are in essence attacking, and that gavel has not been used to gavel to stop it.
I think on this one, I do have a dissenting opinion just slightly, in that there's two components to it for me. Number one, the public has they have a constitutional right to come and address the board. It's their First Amendment right, and in some cases they're hot under the collar or maybe don't fully understand direction of something, which we totally get. It's their right to yell at their elected officials. Absolutely understood. What I don't want to see is where we can get into a argumentative situation with residents who are just venting, most with legitimate concerns. But if we're countering them every single time, then we risk discouraging them from coming to speak. And I don't want that. It's good. It's healthy for the board to get yelled at, because it does put things in perspective and it can change minds. So I do think that we can address concerns. We have it in place already towards the end, and again in commissioner comments. I think we could address it there. I think it would be prudent to express to folks who are making public comments that, hey, do stick around, because the board will address statements at the end. I'm very keen with that, but I do have some concerns with getting into a potential argumentative situation, knowing what I know about the town of Waxhaw and its history.
I guess what I hear, and this is, what's been discussed when I speak to people, is that they don't feel like they have an opportunity to get any answers, right? And because if then we don't address something in our comments, then they feel like they don't have an answer, and they still might not get it if they're coming and yelling at us, because probably the best is not to address somebody who's super angry right in the heat of the moment, right? But I think we need to find a way to be able to communicate better at the meetings where they don't feel, because oftentimes they feel that they're coming, they're passionate about what they're talking about and what they're fighting for, and they feel unheard. So I guess the question is, how do we make them feel heard and feel like encouraging to come to the meetings, that it matters to come to meetings? A lot of people feel like they come and the outcome is not even close to what they expect. So how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, so I do agree. I do agree with that, and I do agree that. But I do feel that the residents who are passionate about a topic receive a thoughtful response rather than something just off the cuff. And sometimes that thoughtful response does require some research. A perfect example is I know I received an email just earlier this week from a resident who was who was passionate about the villages of Waxhaw, and she's praying for some pretty nasty things to happen to me, and and so
Yeah, me too.
and so I and so I actually did some research. I didn't immediately respond. I did some research on it. I also went out to the project site. I discovered that this project was approved in 2016. Nobody sitting on this board or probably in this room had anything to do with that approval. There were concerns about blasting that's going on constantly, which I learned that there actually isn't. It's tough to predict blasting. When this building was constructed, the town manager and the town staff was just remarkable with the neighborhood, the school. The site manager would contact the town and tell them, hey, we've come into some rock, we need to blast. And so that caused Haven Creative and other folks within the town to alert the school, to alert neighbors and things of that nature. I don't see a lot of that going on with the villages of Waxhaw. There isn't that level of communication between the town. Maybe that could improve. But so these are the types of thoughtful conversations. Like if that resident came at a meeting and was screaming and yelling at us because she's got dust all over the place and her life's ruined and she's praying for nasty things to happen to us. I mean, I don't know what I would say right away because I mean, this project happened 10 years ago, so I have to do some research on it. I wouldn't be able to have a thoughtful response for her right there.
But sometimes I think that's all they're looking for, kind of like, I don't know the answer to that. I'd like more time to research it, because I know I get emails like that too, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know when the project was passed. I'll find out, and I know I've talked to Madison a couple of times about a specific project, and he's been able to help me out. And sometimes when people are going through, a second phase, they were in the first phase, now they're in the second phase, and although they knew the second phase was coming, they didn't really prepare for what that would look like. And so, again, the dust, and they're hammering all day, and they're hammering till midnight, and that's probably not the reality, but they just want to be heard and want to be put in contact with somebody who's going, hey, you know what, I'm going to check on that. So.
No, I do agree with that, and by the way, that's what we've always kind of done. I know that when citizens were passionate about topics, our previous mayor would say, "We're going to look into that," and the town reacted to that, and we did. We researched it and looked into it and prepared a thoughtful response. I don't think there's any reason why we still couldn't do that. But do we need a separate section for it? I'm not so sure. I don't think so.
That's what I was just going to say. I've served under 2 mayors prior, and if there was a comment, the mayor, he would respond. He would say, if it was a very simple question, he would answer it, or he may ask the town manager, and they could respond to that right then. Now, something such as you mentioned, yeah, might take some research, but I don't have a problem with the mayor giving a simple response if you know the answer to it in that moment.
Or we could even, as Jason stated, just make a general response that, we will follow up with you with your question, with information, or it could possibly be answered at the end, or the fact that the commissioners, we all have phones. We have access, or citizens have access to us to contact us. We now have offices. Citizens have access to meet with us here. Before we had the offices or even the phones, I was meeting with people at, Provisions or different places just to have daily contact. Or I would say, hey, I'm going to be at this place at certain days and times. If anybody wants to meet with me, please come in and speak, and I will address your questions and concerns that you may have. Or, if they call or email us, we follow up with them. So to have a separate comment section may not be necessary. And as Jason stated, or Tracy stated, that you could say, I will have Commissioner so-and-so follow up with you if that's necessary or whatever.
Yeah, and the town manager and the clerk have always been exceptional with, when there is follow-up, just make sure whoever's commenting, we get their contact information and everything, or email, a phone number, and all that jazz.
I think you've all brought up good points, and but I do think there's value in regularly saying at each meeting after public comments, any board comments, because that signals to the public our commitment to paying attention to them and responding to them. And, Commissioner Hall, you brought up some interesting points about, speaking off the cuff when you've just been blasted by somebody, right? And somebody came a couple of meetings ago and blasted all of us. And, but
She got gavelled for talking about blowing things up, so.
It can be difficult in the moment, but I think that's an opportunity for each of us personally to exercise self-control and maybe even try to diffuse the situation. As for sort of encouraging people to stay for the meeting by having everything at the end of the meeting, I'm not sure if that's carrot enough for most people, You know
what, since we're kind of brainstorming here, something that just occurred to me that I might throw out there for everyone to consider is that perhaps after the, maybe a halfway point, after the public comments, we have just a real quick commissioner assignments, we'll call it, okay? And so after the public make their comments, we can say, okay, who's going to follow up on who's going to take what to follow up on?
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. And
rather than get into a direct response, it's more of a that would give the public the knowledge that, okay, there is somebody following up on this. Here's who's going to follow up on it, and then one of us on this board will take it.
Yeah, I think that was, Tracy and Brenda, you made good points in terms of allowing the mayor a chance to respond, because I think that would be the foundation of my response, would be to look to the board and say, is there anyone on this board who has spoken with someone about that topic or knows a lot about that topic or has been digging into it lately or is eager to dig into it? So I think maybe instead of just having commissioner response, it could just be a mayor's response. And then I can conclude on top of just thank you for comments, which I typically do anyway, just follow up and look to the board and say, hey, does anybody want to address this either now or follow up with the citizen at a later time? So I think we can do it that way.
Yeah, I would say rather than just mayor response, though, I'm kind of hanging on that term assignments, right? Because then that gives the public the knowledge that, okay, it's going to be followed up on, rather than it's just a comment.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good idea. So maybe we can add that then to the agenda, is at the end of public comments, we will have a mayor's assignments. Just exactly. And again, and that's, I think what I started with was, we're going to have to be the bigger people here. We understand we're public figures, we understand we're public servants, and we're going to catch heat for it. And so it's our job to be the bigger people and recognize that, okay, I'm getting attacked, the board's getting attacked, okay, they're being vague, but I know who they're talking about. It is going to fall on us to be the bigger people here and just eat it sometimes. But I think having that ability to have a little mayor's assignments at the end of public comments would allow us then to look to the board and say, hey, does anyone want to address this, any of these particular topics? And again, the whole idea is that this comes at the end of all the public comments. So if there's 20 public comments, it'll come at the very end to, again, prevent that back and forth.
And then just one more caveat to that. In the assignment, whoever is taking that assignment to respond, make sure that your board members know what you have stated to that person with your response, so that we are aware of what has been said
Copy the
to that
board,
individual
yeah.
as well.
I think that's a fair request, is to copy the board on any kind of email or written response that goes out. Okay, that sounds good. So all in favor of adding a mayor's assignments to the commissioners to the end of public comments?
We
or
didn't
just
really have
mayor's
a motion,
assignments?
but
or,
should we move to do that?
Do we want to move to a motion, or you just want to see what the next agenda looks like?
Well, just a mayor's response, not an assignment. So
Okay.
your response would be the assignment to us, so whatever.
What are you thinking, Jason?
Sounds like homework.
It is homework.
Yeah, I guess what I was hanging my hat on was, it was commissioner assignments, or actually, let me rephrase that, board assignments, because maybe there is something that the mayor takes, right? But I would say board assignments, because it would relate to all 6 of us who are sitting up here. Okay.
That sounds great.
And then just, full transparency, 9 times out of 10, it's going to end up on someone else in this room.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I was going to say, what you might want to do is do board/staff assignments. Because you may send it right to the staff because they already know the answer and can respond, very quickly.
I think
Maybe
the
we don't
staff saw
need
this
to
coming anyway. Sorry, everybody.
It sounds like we're in agreement, so we probably don't need to vote, right? We're just.
Sounds fair.
agree. Yeah.
We all agree on that? Yeah. All righty, I think we're good on that one. Thank you very much. That's a good discussion point.
So just maybe for Barbie, then, does there need to be a vote to change the structure of the agenda?
You will need to have to amend your rules of procedure to add that.
Okay.
Because right now, currently, your agenda does not have that.
Right. Okay. So will you help guide us through that then?
Yes.
See, that's my first assignment, right?
What we can do is we can add that to your agenda for February the 11th in conjunction with updating your, amending your rules of procedure to add that for future agendas.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Will that be enough time for you to take the time to get that added into the rules and procedures? I know we've got a lot of other stuff going on, so the 11th is a reasonable due date for you on that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes all of those. We are about an hour ahead of schedule. I've got a couple of suggestions for you. I would still like for each of you on your left-hand column, write down at least 7 things you have a strong interest in staff further exploring for the possibility of moving forward. On the right hand of the page, Tommy, if you don't like something, Tommy, if it's 50 items, that's fine. But Tom, we still have a huge unknown with the tax values. Tom, and it's hard to have a discussion on these when you really don't know what you can afford, what you can't afford. Can you even look at some of these things because of the budget constraints? My second suggestion is, Tom, you've heard a lot. If you've heard something, Tom, that you would like to have a burning discussion on this morning, Tom, that's fine. And my third suggestion, Dina will do the first advisory board updates, which will take about 30 minutes. And unless you have, a strong desire to have, discussions on your future needs and wants, that would only leave us on one presentation. Tom, after lunch, then we'd be done after that. So you could get Tom, you could go home early.
Yeah, let them do something.
I do have one question real quick, though. Can you remind me again when the cost to serve study comes out?
He is still waiting on the tax values, and once he gets those, he'll redo all of his calculations and formulas. So it will. I'm assuming would be March or April before that's available. Tom, that is a key component of that study. So.
Sounds good. We did get a request for a bio break, so I think we'll go ahead and recess briefly for maybe a 10-minute bio break, and then we'll go ahead and jump to the advisory board.
We're going to do the
nonprofit partner updates because Dina has volunteers coming for this, and my
I think she
volunteers
said
are
none of
committed.
hers are coming.
and go.
Okay, one slight change in what I asked you to do. If you would, go home this weekend and think about what you've heard, what you have interest in, and your let's say 7 items that you or more that you'd like us to move forward on, and the ones that you don't want us to. Send it to our town clerk on Monday, and she'll compile it and she'll keep all of it, and that'll give you time to think. You got a lot to digest. I mean, it's a lot to stuff, and instead of having you sitting up here writing for a half hour, I can put my staff back to work. So now we're going to mix it up a little bit. Ashley's going to make the next presentation. I don't think any of her board members will be here, and we'll try and move this along. So shortly after we eat lunch, we'll be done. So.
Awesome. Hey guys, so I'll have a couple of presentations here, putting a couple different hats on for my role here with the town. So right now we're going to put on my Downtown Waxhaw Association hat. So a part of my role as the Business Development Director is to serve as the Executive Director for the Downtown Waxhaw Association. So just so you know, that's the hat we're wearing right now, the DWA hat. So because it's prime vacation time right now. A lot of our DWA board members are actually on vacation. So I do want to introduce them though here. So these are some headshots that we got this year of our Downtown Waxhaw Association board and staff. So Dan Garrett is our board president. Kate Stallman is our vice president. Bernard Arthur is the treasurer. Jim Hill, Tony Garshnick, Kat Richardson are all community members that serve on that board. Interim Town Manager Hicks, the town manager always has a position on that DWA board. Mayor Pro Tem McMillan, and then Commissioner Tracy Westlick are also on the DWA board. At the bottom there, you see Alara and I. Alara serves as the executive, or I serve as the executive director, and Alara is our downtown coordinator that handles a lot of our promotion and communication for the organization. Just as a reminder, this is our structure for the Waxhaw Main Street program. We moved to this structure in December of 2022. We call it a quasi-public-private partnership. So what that means is that your business development director, me, serves a quasi role. And so I serve as that executive director for the nonprofit organization. So I am managed by the town manager. You guys, as the Board of Commissioners, appoint those board members to the Downtown Waxhaw Association. And then together, our Business Development Department and the Downtown Waxhaw Association, they work together to manage that Main Street 4-point approach. This organization was ultimately created to help us better promote downtown Waxhaw and give us more opportunities for grant funding as we have projects come up in downtown. Just a reminder, what is Main Street? So Main Street is strengthening our downtown communities through preservation-based economic development. It was started in the 80s all over the country as we started to disinvest in our historic commercial districts. That was when we built a lot of malls. So we saw that those downtown communities needed some love and revitalization. So the National Trust for Historic Preservation created the National Main Street Center that focused on revitalizing districts through a 4-point approach. Right now, there are more than 2,000 communities across the country that use this approach in working and promoting their downtown district. And as a reminder, will you scroll for me? Thank you. With the Main Street 4-point approach, just a reminder of what those 4 points are. So economic vitality develops businesses, so that's our retention and recruitment of businesses. Design develops space, so working on placemaking, public art, attractive storefronts, really looking at that look and feel of downtown. Promotion develops customers, so that's promoting downtown as a destination for shopping, dining, entertainment, really promoting our downtown for the region as a place to come and enjoy. And then organization is the point that develops partnerships. That's a lot of that volunteer engagement, as well as support and advocacy with you guys as elected officials. So I know our downtown is in really great shape. We're not necessarily fixing old buildings as much anymore because they all look really nice. But if we're focusing on these 4 points, we're really getting a comprehensive approach on promoting the district and making sure that all of the needs are being met. This year, our board did rewrite our vision and mission. This was something that I shared with you guys in the fall. So our vision is the downtown Waxhaw, with its small town charm, is the cultural and economic center of the community. It's the premier destination in Union County to experience genuine craftsmanship, create shared memories, and build economic opportunities. So those bolded points that you see there, those are our economic development strategies for downtown. So those are the things that we focus our projects on to make sure that we are bringing downtown and promoting that as such a strong economic center in our town. Our mission of the nonprofit organization is to be the leading resource to preserve, promote, and bridge the past, present, and future of downtown Waxhaw. We really like using that word, that bridge, connect piece. We really see ourselves as that connector between our downtown businesses, between our customers, between visitors to Waxhaw, connecting them to resources, to shops, and just helping make our district successful. Will you scroll back up to that chart? Perfect. So I have included this financial dashboard for you guys. This is something we prepare for our Downtown Waxhaw Association every month. You guys have an attachment in your agenda too if you want to look at this bigger, because I know these numbers are really small. But as the town of Waxhaw does have an MOU with the DWA and does support the DWA financially. So I want to make sure you guys have access to this and we are transparent in our revenue and expenses each year. Okay. So now we're going to talk through each of those 4-point approaches and then some of the projects that we're working on in town. I've also included the comprehensive work plans that our board and committees put together for you guys. Those work plans include a mid-year update so you can see where we are on a lot of the projects that we've been working on in FY25. First, we'll talk about organization. So we've been working hard on fundraising. Over the last year, when Alara started a year ago, our big push was communication, managing the social media by myself and then attempting to build the website by myself was not attainable. And when Alara came on, she really helped with streamlining our communication, our social media, our website presence. So our transition this year is going to be a lot more fundraising. So you can see our Friends of Downtown and our grant numbers for this year. We are launching a sponsorship campaign within the next week for St. Patrick's Day this year. So that will be a big fundraising push. We are working with the town to coordinate on that downtown master plan. And you guys will hear more on that over the next few weeks as we begin meeting with our consultant. We launched merchandise in the fall of 2024. I included some pictures for you guys there of our merch. So those are actually able to be purchased on our website at downtownwaxhaw.com. We partnered with Haven to create a new brand, so that merch you see there, this logo up here in the top right corner, all of these colors, our communication strategies, the way that we talk to our customers and to our businesses. That was all something that was coordinated with Haven over the last year. It's a really exciting thing to help keep our marketing streamlined and connected with the town, but also as something that is separated from the town. As I mentioned earlier, we did review and redefine our DWA vision and mission. We created a volunteer recruitment and appreciation event that we call the Main Street Mix and Mingle. We held our first one in December, just a fun little networking event with some of our businesses. Some of you guys came as well. It was a really fun evening. We have another one planned in February coming up. And we also reimagined our downtown committees to help empower our volunteers. We've been working on giving our volunteers projects that they can lead and then bring back to our committee and our boards to report on. Our design team are the ones that are focused on developing spaces. We're currently working with a few business owners on doing a creative placemaking initiative on their patio. So if you guys know where Bernie's, Waxhaw Downtown Paws, and Waxhaw Dog Spa is, when we did the TAP project a couple of years ago, we were able to re-pour that concrete patio and create a much more visually appealing space there. So we're working with them with figuring out how can we continue that, continue pushing forward that space. We're looking at different seating options, potentially some public art, and just ways for them to engage their customers more, and with the ultimate goal of driving more foot traffic and more sales for those businesses. We're leading a public art initiative to add crosswalks at North Church Street and West North Main. So you can see this picture here. We will have art crosswalks on each of those 4 crosswalks there, and we will be reviewing those artist submissions with the Public Art Committee over the next few weeks. We are managing our downtown planter program. We replant those at a minimum of 2 times a year. We're currently identifying a few new locations on the south side of the tracks for planters as well. We're coordinating with Buzz Bizzle on 2 digital kiosk signs in downtown. This was something that was included in the CIP last year. And so we're working through design and then what that user interface will look like on those kiosks. We are working on a Trains on Main scavenger hunt project. So we'll have small trains throughout downtown that will help share the history of trains coming through downtown Waxhaw. We're also coordinating with Public Art on the Sculpture Walk and other public art initiatives. And then we're working with HPC to plan a preservation workshop in May. And then a topic that actually came up last year at the board retreat was doing some sort of history podcast. So we've started some work and have taken a few steps on getting a history podcast started as well. Our Economic Vitality Committee, that's the one that's really developing our businesses. So making sure that they have the information and statistics they need to be successful. We do use an online foot traffic database to track our visitors that are coming into the district. And I did want to share, we had 1.6 million visitors come to downtown Waxhaw in 2024. We're really proud of that number. That's really exciting. So it's important that we share that with our businesses, as well as sharing who those customers are, where are they coming from, what are their demographics, so that our businesses can better focus their marketing towards their accurate customer base. We partner with our drone team here in the town to complete a parking study. This is something this committee leads up twice a year in March and in September. We have reimagined our downtown business surveys. We've noticed in the fall, we have a lot of events that happen downtown between October and December. Our businesses get really tired of surveys. There's a lot of survey fatigue because we're constantly asking, how did it go? How did it go? How did it go? What we've decided to do instead is survey our businesses on a quarterly basis. So in those surveys, we're making them a lot simpler. We're asking them what worked, what didn't work, and what would delight you or what would excite you if we added it. So today is kind of the tail end of our Q2 survey, so that October through December survey. And we will be compiling that data. Our DWA board actually meets on Monday, and we'll be sharing those survey results with the Parks and Rec Department. And then we'd like to come back to you guys sometime in February or early March to share the results of those surveys too. We also created a new business success packet that clearly outlines all of the events, all of the promotional activities, and ways to get involved in downtown. And it also gives a really simple step-by-step process for small businesses coming to Waxhaw as to what you do. I think a lot of times for small businesses, it's really difficult coming into a new community and not knowing where to start. So we take a lot of pride in being that first point of contact and helping people really just walk along with them along the way. What permits do you need? Who do you need to reach out to for water, for sewer? If you need a space, how can we help connect you with that space? The Small Business Success Guide has been a really great way to structure a lot of those one-on-one counseling discussions we have. We also launched a downtown gift card program. These gift cards can be used at 27 businesses throughout downtown. We are working on expanding that over the next year as well. So our promotions committee is the one that helps develop customers. So currently we're working with a few downtown businesses to plan a St. Patty's Day event. We'll have 2 parties going on downtown, and then we're working on some business-friendly promotional ideas with all of the other businesses that will happen all throughout the month of March. So stay tuned over the next few weeks. We'll be launching a lot of that communications in mid-February. We now have a monthly newsletter that we send out as well. You can sign up for that also at downtownwaxhaw.com. In that monthly newsletter, we share events that are happening in our downtown businesses, any news about new businesses coming to town, and then we talk about any events and promotions that are upcoming as well. We've launched an SMS text program for downtown businesses, employees, property owners, and shoppers. What we've noticed is that, so we've got 120 businesses downtown. All 120 of them have very different communication styles. And so we're really trying to figure out the best way to share our information to our businesses. We have done email in the past. We do face-to-face business visits. But we've also started a text program too, just to reach people who would rather just have a quick text on their phone. This has worked very well. One of the things we're really excited to use this for too is for employees. So say when we have autumn treasures, for example, and most of the streets are going to be closed downtown, we can now have that contact with those employees and not just with that business owner. This will also be a really cool option for us with shoppers. Say we have an awesome shopping event coming up, or we've got a good St. Patty's Day event, we can then promote that through push text notifications. We've also increased our downtown social media presence. If you don't follow us on Facebook and Instagram at downtownwaxhaw.com. Our downtown website and blog was started last fall. So again, downtownwaxhaw.com. You can find us on there. We do post news stories on there often as well. We also planned a business-friendly Fright Night event this year. We had over 7,500 visitors and 2,000 website visits for that. This was the first big event that we hosted after we launched our website, and we were really, really happy with the website traffic that we got for that event. Also, we coordinated some business-friendly promotional activities during our town-sponsored events. We have 4 events a year, and we're really trying to communicate with our businesses that those may not necessarily be strong sales days, but they're a good way to get your name out there. So we work really hard with them, making sure that they are working to build awareness of their business during those town-sponsored events. Okay. So that's a lot of information. There's a lot of attachments in your agenda that you guys can read for more information. Happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we are at the McDonald House now. Our website is listed on there. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Questions from the board? All righty. Thank you very much, Ashley.
Okay, we're talking about hats. Here's another hat.
Welcome back, Ashley.
What?
Welcome back.
I know. I have actually joked with many people about getting hats that say this, because I'm often having to think through which hat we're having on at which time. So we'll put on the Waxhaw Business Association board member hat now. So a part of my role, I also serve on the Waxhaw Business Association as their secretary. It does say in the WBA bylaws that we do have a Town of Waxhaw staff member included on that board. That was put in to encourage strong communication between the groups. It makes sure that they're aware of the economic development in town, but also that we as a town can use them as a partner, as a conduit to help communicate that we're a place to do business. So as we prepped this agenda a couple weeks ago, And we were kind of talking through these nonprofit updates. I thought this was a really good opportunity to share some WBA updates with you guys. And this hasn't necessarily been something that's been shared with the board before. But I think it's important for you to know what this nonprofit board is doing. Plus, we're doing a lot of growing right now. And so I'm just really excited about this organization and the impact it's making in our small business community. So for those of you that have been around for a while, the WBA went through a big challenge with COVID. So much of the WBA services are in-person meetings, and COVID happened, and it was really hard to do that. So the organization lost a lot of its business members during COVID. And so we've been working really hard over the last 4 to 5 years to build up this organization and make it sustainable. And what's really exciting is the WBA has a really great, strong foundation right now. And we're in a really exciting growth period, which is why I wanted to share some of the things that we have going on. Let's see. Will you scroll for me, Jill? Thanks. So I wanted to share with you guys our vision and mission. So our vision is to continue to create an environment for individuals and businesses in the community that allow like-minded people to meet, network, collaborate, and do business. Our mission is to encourage, support, and promote Waxhaw's thriving business community through education, networking, and events. The WBA currently has 67 total members. They've got 9 nonprofits and 58 for-profits. What's exciting is this is changing constantly. We are constantly getting new members that are joining and coming to our meetings. We have groups all over the board. We've got some nonprofits that are really big staples here in Union County. So like Turning Point, the Union County Educational Foundation, as well as arts groups like the Waxhaw Community Theater and the Union County Arts Council. Another really great partner between the town, the WBA, the DWA, is the Small Business Center at South Piedmont. So they're also a member of the WBA, and that just brings that really strong small business support connection. We also have several downtown businesses that are members, so businesses like the Tap House and Tangles. We have several real estate agents, mortgage officers, and banks. We also have lots of entrepreneurs here in Waxhaw and our surrounding area. So people that specialize in physical therapy, in nutrition, in branding and photography. We also have entertainment places. So places like Waxhaw Escape, Waxhaw Cycles, and Powerhouse Karate. So our types of businesses that are members of the WA are wide and varying. Well, thank you. Our board is listed here for you guys. So Jen Stevenson with Jen Stevenson Payroll is the president of the WBA. Lawrence at Ace Hardware. Renee with South Piedmont. Me with the town. Andrew McLean with Edward Jones. Travis Underwood with Future Loans. And then Kate Riccardi with Digestion by Design are all on our Waxhaw Business Association board. The Waxhaw Business Association has a few primary services. One of is our monthly breakfast meetings. We host these on the 3rd Wednesday of the month from 7:30 to 9 a.m. These are held at the Waxhaw Tap House. And the whole purpose of these is really providing networking and short educational opportunities. We normally have about 30 to 40 people in attendance at these meetings. We also have a nighttime networking opportunity. These are done quarterly. They're from 5:30 to 7, and they're held at local businesses in Waxhaw. The main purpose of these is networking and relationship building. We're really excited. We're kind of revamping these nighttime networking opportunities this year. So we're really excited. Our first one is in March, and we're excited to see how this new structure goes. And what's exciting for 2025 is we have a lot of new things coming. So one of the things we've decided to add this year is workshops. We have had some really great speakers at our morning breakfasts, and we've realized that their 30-minute window to speak often isn't enough. Our businesses are seeking more. So this year we'll be providing some additional education opportunities for entrepreneurs. We're partnering this with the South Piedmont Community College Small Business Center, as well as the Downtown Waxhaw Association, so that we can each reach our different entrepreneurial audiences. So in April, on April 29th, we will be doing a How to Grow Your Business Through Networking workshop. What's great about having this space is we can do these here. So we'll be having that here in the board chambers. And then in September, we'll be doing another workshop that will be a hands-on social media workshop. So we're bringing in someone from Charlotte. We're telling our businesses to bring their laptops, and we'll be creating content calendars. It's a really great way, I think, for our small business owners. Time is few and far between. And so if we can get them to dedicate 4 hours, and if we can actually accomplish something tangible for them during those workshops, we're really excited for them to be able to take home something tangible that they can immediately implement. And then other new and exciting things, we have a new brand. So if you guys have been following the WBA, you do not recognize this logo because this is the first time it's been shared. So this is a new Waxhaw Business Association logo that we've created. We are also launching a new website. We're working on integrating that logo in the website now. So that new website will be waxhawbusinessassociation.org. So really exciting to have a new and modern and ultimately mobile-friendly website. It'll be really exciting for the organization. So thank you again for letting us chat today. I think small businesses in our community are what makes Waxhaw. That's truly what makes us unique. We have such a strong entrepreneurial community, not just in downtown, but town-wide. And so it's exciting to have these two nonprofit organizations that can help partner together, but also support our businesses and educating them, helping them grow. And yeah, so thank you guys.
Anything from the board? Questions, comments? Nope. Awesome. Thanks again, Ashley.
Thank you, guys.
Shall we move then to advisory boards, or, yeah?
I can do the art one. Do you want to check on lunch, or you decide to do the art? I think they said they would be before 12, so you probably got time to do the
all right.
arts presentation.
Okay, so we're going to do PAC first, and then we'll eat lunch, and then we'll come back and do PCR. Melissa and I are going to tag team it. Miss Terry couldn't be here. She had some health concerns with her family, and then I went down the list of our other committee members, and unfortunately, they just couldn't be here at the last minute. So you're stuck with me and Melissa. Okay, just an overview of the Public Art Committee work plan. We're going to go over all the cool things that just happened in '24, active public art projects and restorations coming up, some budget that goes along with that, and then we're at the finishing stages of the community art plan. Remember I told you about that survey coming out soon about that. That'll help wrap that up, and then I'll bring it to y'all at a future council meeting, and then how we work together with our other teammates in the room. So this is just a snapshot of the cool art that got put up in '24. So we did our first community mural, which was awesome. We had it at Kaleidoscope. And so the public got to see the process of doing it and got to meet with the artist. So that was really cool. Ms. Ashley had their tent right near there, so they got answer questions. We also put up our first serpentine walk, sculpture walk. We got 3 artists. We're expanding that to now 6 artists coming up for the spring. So you'll have 6 sculptures along the art walk that we will. That's the 11th is when we're getting all those in, and then we'll bring it to PAC committee, and then this is also a partnership with our downtown committees as well. And then our awesome sculpture out in the lobby for the town hall. So these are cool initiatives happening culturally in Waxhaw. Okay. So future development of art initiatives is to continue with that sculpture walk, but there's budget requirements on there, so that lives in the Park and Rec operating budget. We are requesting, I know this is going to be a big number for y'all, $20,000 because of this is a rotating art, and they get like a stipend to be there, and then initial upkeep of the current art as well, and then art initiatives with our community partners. And then we're also working with the art plan, getting that up to date so we can go out for future grants. And that way, again, it doesn't hit the town budget, then we can use those art grants to bring more initiatives, workshops for our artists. We just had a wonderful meeting with the Waxhaw Arts Council, and to kind of renew those community partners, and we're meeting soon with the Union County Arts Council. So again, getting all of our friends together to bring more art initiatives to Waxhaw. And then all the collaborations with our home team, with the downtown and historical, to bring us all on the same page. Melissa, you want to add?
I think you said it all.
Okay. I always leave you with our vision and mission. Again, culturally, this is a part of our vision and mission. Do y'all have any questions about what they're working on this coming up year?
Questions? So are we targeting new art pieces then for 2025?
So the sculpture walk would have, so those art pieces that are up there would go away, and then we'll have 6 coming on board.
Okay.
So there's 6 new pieces coming.
So we'll have 6 pieces total to the art walk instead of the 3 we have now?
Correct.
And then we'll get 6 new, okay.
We'll get, so we have 3 now.
Yep.
Those are rotate out.
Yep.
We're adding 3 more, so 6 altogether.
Perfect.
Where do they rotate to?
Good question. Good question. So the art, we did a stipend for the artists to basically put their art on loan to us for a whole year, and their time period is coming up in May. We rotated out at Kaleidoscope, so that component's part of Kaleidoscope because that's a culturally, event for our town, and so that rotation would happen then.
So they typically go back into the artist inventory, or they may be going to another show. I had one in downtown Matthews. We had a sculpture program there, a rotating sculpture. So some of those artists just travel around the country, and so we try to time up installation dates based on when they're traveling in different areas. That way we can get more regional, even national artists to come display their work here in Waxhaw.
But we've had a great callback on artists, so the deadline's on the 11th, so we're waiting to go through all the applications. But we have 6 or 7?
We have 6 right now, expecting a couple more applications to be submitted by next week.
So it's really exciting.
Is there a theme you guys are heading toward, or is that still to be decided?
So there isn't a theme other than our art plan, where it's culturally to Waxhaw, historically, nature. So all those components is what we're looking for. We did bat around the having a theme each year. Then they kept on being conflict of, well, I don't like that, or da-da-da. So when we went back to the art plan, it actually has components in there that we stay on task with our culture, our nature theme, and the historical of Waxhaw. And that's what you saw on the walk right now with the 3 sculptures that we have. So we made it more broader, but we made it us. Good question. Any other questions? Guess we're going to be ready to eat.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor, lunch is here.
Oh, yeah?
And if you want to eat now, I think our final people should be here about 12:30. So that gives us about an hour for lunch, and then hopefully we'll have you out of here by 1.
That sounds dandy.
He said one.
No. Oh, come on.